Good evening, and welcome to Pynchon Pals, a podcast about finally reading Thomas Pynchon. My name is Patrick Fiorilli, and I'm joined, as always, by Duri Long.
Hello.
And Andrew Tillett.
Hi.
What was that? I switched up the names. I could do that. How'd that feel for y'all?
I was trying to match your...
We're messing this up. We're not so good at this when you switch it up, Patrick. You killed our flow state.
The whole energy gets off.
I was thinking about on the ride home from work today. I was like, he always introduces me first. And then you didn't. And this is the complacency that'll get you.
Mm-hmm.
Always be on your toes.
I didn't even notice that you switched up the order. I just noticed that you were speaking very enthusiastically, and I tried to match that energy.
That's good. I mean, podcasting is about matching each other's energies. What are we talking about? Up at the top, we'd like to thank our supporters at patreon.com/PynchonPals, where you can sign up for $5 a month. That's right, just $5 a month to hear exclusive bonus episodes like our upcoming watch of a smattering of documentaries about the V2 rocket. Maybe you've heard of this thing. We'll if you check the link in the show notes, there are several links to watch those, and we'll be talking about them for our patron exclusive bonus episode. You can also go back and listen to us talk about Paul Thomas Anderson's The Master. Key word for tonight's discussion, The Master shows up. Or Tamala 2010, A Punk Cat in Space. That one is also up there. And some Q&As and whatnot. So patreon.com/PynchonPals is the place to go for that. On tonight's episode, we're discussing sequences 2.3 through 2.5 of Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow, a book we are all reading for the first time.
One of these sections is about a haunting, and the other is haunting me.
This book has been variously called, a masterpiece, overwritten, turgid, obscene, and I think we get like a really good sort of bird's eye view of where all of those adjectives may have come from in people's sort of deprecating reviews of the book, and yet somehow shining through it all, we persist and we keep coming back.
There were some high highs and some low lows.
Shall we jump into it, since we have much to discuss? 3 whole sequences. It's like we're back in book 1 as far as our pace is going.
Let's go.
All right. Sequence 2.3. Newly arrived at the casino is Nora Dodson Truck's husband, Stephen, a polymath who's studying Slothrop as he's given a crash course in rocketry. Katja reflects on the nature of trajectory and determinacy as she works the gambling tables downstairs. Slothrop grows a very English mustache and decides to get the lowdown on the setup here by getting Stephen drunk with a rowdy game called Prince. Instead, plastered Stephen has a mental breakdown outside as angel-like figures watch on from beyond the horizon. Elsewhere, Eventer is still trying to figure out their whole deal, so we learn a little more about the revolutionary's death that befell the decidedly unrevolutionary Peter Saxa. Next morning, Stephen has fled and Katja berates Slothrop for torching the experiment before they have more violent sex than usual. Before long, she's gone too.
You thought we were reading V?
Back?
We're not reading V. If you thought we were reading V, we're reading Gravity's Rainbow. It's the same, but it's different.
It is different.
Which I will say, I think across all 3 of these sections, there's a lot of little sprinklings in of both V and Lot 49. A lot of references.
Cross references. You can tell these books were kind of written at the same time.
Or at least Lot 49 and this were, maybe. Although I feel like we did read somewhere that like parts of Gravity's Rainbow came out during the writing process of V.
Yeah, I'll be very curious to read the sort of next era of Pynchon.
Well, he takes a break for a while. For a good long while.
I'm eager to see him enter a new space. Not that I'm not enjoying this.
Thomas Pynchon is transitioning to a new phase, as they once said about the dying Queen of England.
I really liked the opening sentence of this chapter. I thought it was really beautiful.
It's one of these little moments of Pynchonian tenderness, I think, once again, that we so occasionally get.
Tenderness, and he's very good at like transporting the reader to like a different time and place, and like I think especially like these descriptive details of like a room or the way that light is shining.
Oh, he's all over the place about light in this book, especially.
I mean, he's had a thing with sunlight for a while, but
have you noticed, like, a thing I keep noticing in this book is that he keeps making these compound nouns of light. He's talked about snow light in this one of these chapters. He talks about cloud light at one point. It's like a little verbal thing that I feel like he keeps doing that is distinctive. It stands out to me.
Well, even here he says son of porpoises out in the harbor, which is like not necessarily, I mean, I don't think that's a word for a grouping of porpoises.
No, they're a pod.
A pod.
Like we're a pod, they're a pod.
Hey. Porpoises and peas and us. Porpoises, peas, and Pynchon pals. All pods.
And Slothrop, you pig. Oink, oink, oink.
In case you're having too good of a time with that first sentence.
I really liked the son of porpoises. I feel like it doesn't exactly make sense, but I feel like we get the vibe of the sort of sunniness and the beachiness and etc. This briefly made me want to go to the beach until the beach started seeming like a prison.
Yeah, what is it? Something appears like a net, right?
A luminous net, and then later on they describe the palm trees as casting like prison bar like shadows,
mm-hmm.
And then the beach started to feel less appealing.
If you're gonna be pinned up somewhere and being experimented on, wouldn't you rather it be the beach though? I mean, his other option is like dreary early or late winter London, so you might as well be in the French Riviera.
100% the conclusion that Slothrop comes to. Like he fully knows that he's being experimented on.
We get a new character for the first time in a little while. Stephen Dodson Truck.
Sir Stephen Dodson Truck.
Yes, excuse me.
Sir Stephen.
OBE, I guess.
33 languages, including English.
There's sort of like a long-running theory about the Dodson trucks that I'm not sure I buy, but maybe I just don't know enough about the context here, that they relate in that Stephen Dodson Truck kind of sounds, I guess if you squint at it, like Stephen Daedalus from Ulysses, and like speaks a bunch of languages and is kind of a polymath, and has been taken to resemble a kind of James Joycean figure. Meanwhile, James Joyce's wife was named Nora, so you get Nora and Stephen here. Andrew, you're probably more of a Joyce head than I am. Did you pick up any?
I've read Dubliners like 4 times.
Yeah, but Andrew has talked my ear off about Ulysses many times.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. As far as some of the talking names and the names that sound vaguely like names we already have, I'm not sure Dodson Truck maps very cleanly onto Daedalus. But the double Nora thing is hard to deny.
Yeah, something I'll be curious if, presuming that Stephen shows up more in the rest of this book, if you notice any Joyceanisms beyond the thing we get here, which is that Stephen has a penchant for sort of etymologies and punnings and histories of words and sort of obscure symbolisms. Like this one here about the Old Norse rune for S, sol, which means sun. The old High German name for it is sigil. Did y'all look up this rune?
I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Notice anything about it?
It's the Nazi S.
Yeah. But did you, I assume you probably read this. I didn't realize that the like SS uniform, this is the like little lightning strike S, or I guess in Slothrop's case here, he's looking at electrical diagrams, and if there's one thing we know about Thomas Pynchon, he likes making little visual puns out of electrical diagrams.
I feel like I've drawn something similar to this symbol in the margins of a previous Pynchon novel.
Making a little Kilroy out of a circuit.
Does that companion book talk about this at all? Because I attempted to find examples of old German circuit drawings that seem to flip the coil and the resistor as far as sort of the drawing goes, and I didn't succeed in this. I'm not sure if this was just something that's sort of hard to Google, because when you Google German circuit diagram, you just get the Hockenheim ring over and over again, or
yeah. In fact, Andrew, I kind of skipped over this annotation from the Weisenberger companion. But he writes, see, for instance, the electrical schematics in Koy and Utenbogart's Ballistics of the Future, pages 356 and 358. So you didn't look up that one? That one slipped by you? And
couldn't find that reference anywhere online while I was looking.
They follow the German system of designating an induction coil by means of a sawtooth line, which American technicians would understand as a resistor.
Okay, I figured, I assumed it was real. I just couldn't find any examples of it online to like look at a sample circuit diagram. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, Weisenberger doesn't mention the SS connection. Maybe he assumes it's like somewhat obvious because it's a lightning strike S rune. But I was looking at the designer, or the SS rune symbol comes from the Armanen runes, which were, as Wikipedia says, pseudo-runes invented by an Austrian mysticist and Germanic revivalist Guido von List in 1902. And that there was they were put into practice by graphic designer Walter Heck, whose first and principal sentence, when you look him up, is the guy who put the runic SS symbol together for the Nazi party. So that's, I guess, the top item on his byline.
He Dodson Trek contrasts this with the goth symbol for the sun, which is a circle with a dot in the center, and kind of talks about how the Norse representation came from a more like discontinuous or alienating time.
Yeah, the circle with a dot in the center reminds me of, and maybe this is just Alan Moore's Watchmen talking, but like the hydrogen symbol, the circle with the dot in the middle.
Sure.
Yeah. It's also the like.
Go ahead, Duri.
I was just gonna say it's also it's the Chinese symbol for the sun.
Oh, interesting.
Like that's the word. That's the evolution of the character that now means sun in Chinese.
How did the Goths encounter the ancient Chinese?
No, I just think it looks like the sun.
Yeah. It seems like a reasonable
More
symbol.
so than the fragmented S, as Slothrop points out. Funny way to draw that sun.
Andrew, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that it also sort of looks like a target. I feel like the sort of circle with the circle around a center dot, like part of a target, not like the whole target.
Yeah, which is also kind of what Katja, and I guess also or Katja starts to muse on targetry and trajectory, as well as Stephen, when he's having his breakdown, starts to think about his wife's ideology of the zero as relating to the 0 point of falling objects, which we'll get to. Meanwhile, Slothrop is reading a Plastic Man comic. Good for him.
He's trying to enjoy his vacation. They keep trying to make him go to school.
He's really taking this in stride in a way that I was kind of surprised. Like, he's studying hard. He's getting it. He's not, he's slacking off a little bit, I guess. He's occasionally going out to these parties that we get to later. But by and large, he's showing up, studying hard, learning various German dialects, kind of without being told why.
I mean, isn't that just what a lot of school is? We learn a lot of things without understanding exactly why.
Yeah, he has a there's the only way he can find to relate to Stephen here is that they both share a quote unquote love for the word, capital W. Again, kind of Slothrop's Puritan heritage.
Would they say like shit paper in the word? Or that was not quite right.
Shit money in the word.
The word is
I
what
think. Yeah,
America
the
runs
money
on.
is paper.
Yeah.
They're all paper.
Yeah.
Toilet paper, money, and Bibles.
Yeah.
They're all paper.
This chapter got kind of like bleaker than the previous one. We were on such a nice beach vacation. Even at the outset of this chapter, it's like, feeling happy with Katja, but we quickly turn to this idea of inertia keeps coming up, that both Dodson Truck and Katja are sort of hurtling along, and they both have inertia and are sort of helpless to control their trajectory and are just sort of being knocked about. There's also this like metaphor of the roulette table that comes up later on, like just being knocked about from place to place without a lot of free will or control over where they're going. They both seem kind of sad.
Everyone's definitely starting to feel sad.
Yeah, and Slothrop recognizes this too. Like, he recognizes that they're sort of his captors. Like, he's aware that he's being studied for some reason, not exactly sure why. And he's aware that he's been sort of trapped, so to speak, or is being used by Katja and Dodson Truck. But he also, at the same time, recognizes that they're both, I think he refers to them as employees, and recognizes that they are not at the top of this hierarchy and are really just doing their job, and also seem sort of miserable and trapped. In fact, Slothrop seems like he's having more fun than Katja or Dodson Truck.
Well, they're not even pretending to be on vacation. They're pretending to be on vacation. They're at work. He is technically on vacation, I guess, still. Like, he can't leave vacation.
He is at work, but is ostensibly on vacation, whereas they are ostensibly at work, but actually on vacation. Hard to tell. I think you totally called this, Duri, in the last episode about the kind of comparison between Slothrop and Grigori as both being objects that are hurtling at the mercy of forces beyond their comprehension. And at this point, every character we're interacting with in the Riviera is an object hurtling at a point not on their own volition.
You might say that they're all dice rolling around in a roulette game.
You might. Does roulette have dice?
No, you roll a ball in roulette.
A ball. I was feeling like maybe I was off there. I definitely thought it was dice, but
I think you're thinking of craps, which is dice, and like the you throw them in the little.
You're thinking of Dungeons and Dragons.
I mean, I was thinking of roulette because that's what Pynchon brings up. I just didn't know what roulette looked like. I remembered he was talking about things bouncing around, but I just assumed they were dice because it was gambling.
Yeah.
I see here the wheel that, yes.
Yep. Why is Katja working downstairs as a croupier?
I have no idea what Katja is doing here. Just truly none. Like I feel like she escaped a bad situation. She went home. I don't know why she...
Well, she didn't go home because she is Dutch.
I guess so. She went to London, but then I don't know why she's back here. Like, what do they have on her that she got conscripted back into service? And I don't know why all of the female spies seem to have their main assignment be sex work. And I don't know why... Yeah, I'm not like clear why Katja agreed to this.
I don't know that anyone has agreed to anything in this book thus far.
What is special about Katja?
Yeah.
Like, why is she just really pretty? Like, why her?
Like, she's around, right? Like, she got out of Blaquero's situation, the situation with Blaquero. And then, because it's the White Visitation, they just bring her on full time and find her a job.
Let me just say, I would much rather be a man working in the White Visitation.
I mean, part of it must be that the thing they know about Katja is that she is sort of a double agent and spy who has been doing this kind of work presumably for a while at this point. And I guess she's reliable to some extent. Like, she doesn't actually give up the location of the rocket base, but she gets people killed. But she's also not...
I mean, that was kind of her main job.
She didn't do the sort of one thing she needed to do.
She didn't do the main thing, but she got other people killed. Although she did also sort of, throw a lot of innocent people under the bus with permission time and again in order to achieve that. I guess we're not really clear what her overarching goals are.
We haven't gotten a great deal of interiority on Katja.
No, I don't think that's true. I think we've gotten a lot of interiority, but the interiority we've gotten is like her accepting that she is forever fated to be a pawn in somebody else's game, and she is tired of the games and is ready to sort of like hurtle toward she has a little bit of a death wish to some extent.
I guess we get glimpses, but I feel like we're mostly seeing her from others' perspectives.
Yeah.
Like a tear here, a look there.
Which she's very much playing in the sort of like femme fatale trope.
Yeah, I mean, outfits and all.
Mm-hmm. But why is she downstairs at the roulette table?
What I will say is, as coming from growing up in a vacation town, the going on vacation to getting a job in the vacation town so you never have to leave pipeline is real. So it might just be she really likes the French Riviera. No. It's such a strange scene that she's just, I guess Slothrop shows up and one day she's working as croupier. And I guess it's supposed to point to the fact that she's working, as part of this conspiracy, that like she is an employee of like Pointsman's plan in the same way that she's an employee of this casino. But yeah, the actual like reason that she would be filling in as croupier today, maybe they're just short-staffed because it's still so closely post-war. They haven't gotten everyone back yet.
Yeah, maybe she's bored during the time when Slothrop's not with her. Wants to earn a little cash on the side. I do appreciate that she's in yet another sort of costume. A white peasant blouse and a rainbow striped dirndl skirt.
Yeah, sort of dressed up classic Southern German outfit, I guess.
A rainbow.
What?
A rainbow.
A rainbow.
I'm just like circling every instance of gravity and rainbow in this book. And this might be the first rainbow we've gotten. There's another one that comes up shortly after this in here, I think. Yeah, on like the next 2 pages. But
yeah, I guess she kind of becomes like a little bit of like a game master here, but she's not really the game master because she is working in this larger organization, which is an apt metaphor for what she's doing.
She's running the table, but she's not
running the casino.
She's not running the casino, yeah.
She's a cog and a roulette wheel is, I mean, obviously literally a wheel. Like that's
Wheel of Fate.
That's probably not a lot.
Cog as a
but
wheel.
That's a little bit there.
I also found myself wondering, like, parts of this plot have seemed pretty ridiculous and like something that like Pointsman dreamed up one day. Like this whole situation with the octopus as a ruse to get Slothrop and Katya together, when it is pretty clear that like they didn't need the octopus, but Pointsman was like, I'm going to use this damn octopus if they gave it to me. I feel like also like telling Katya to work at the casino could be part of sort of like a Pointsman, like, oh, well, we ostensibly need some reason for her to be staying in this town. Like, I feel like he's creating a narrative around these people that is really unnecessary because Slothrop is fully aware that he's being watched and studied.
That is...
Each of them has supposedly some reason for being there and like a backstory.
I had not actually thought about how Slothrop has no reason to know why Katya is there.
That makes sense. I was joking about her having a summer job, but maybe she really is supposed to be an employee of the casino who then hangs out with Slothrop in the evenings or when she's like off.
Yeah, I think that's like the cover story.
Wow,
but like the cover story is just very unnecessary. I feel like it's like a kind of a comically overwrought spy situation where they have thought through every detail to the extreme, but like still not achieved their aim of having, you know, Slothrop not notice that he's been fallen into this situation.
Well, it's funny because Slothrop only sees her working there exactly one time. She's presumably working there like in the evenings, and like he sees her there once.
I just feel like maybe he got like a call, or no, it was Katya got a call from like someone on Pointsman's team. And they were like, you know what? We just thought of, Katya. It's kind of weird that you're still there and you don't have a reason for staying in this town. We really think that it would be more believable if you like went downstairs and got a job at the roulette table.
We've shipped you a rainbow dirndl.
Slothrop knows she's a war refugee because he asks her about it, and then she plays coy. And so I guess, it's like you can't have that much money if you're like a war refugee from a place where the war is still being fought. Like, it's not like you can be here on infinite vacation like if you were just a wealthy Dutch woman.
Maybe this is also like funding cuts happening back home. They were like, Katya, we can't fully pay your salary. We need you to...
Yeah, if she's just working part-time, maybe she really is picking up a second job just for the sake of it. I think there's also at the beginning of the next section, or one of the sections in our reading today that isn't this one, there's that at the very beginning it talks about as the war's winding down, how they like never used reserves of oil they had to burn German invaders who were, I guess, invading England. And then there's sort of a quip that like there were lots of kooky ideas that the White Visitation members were throwing around for schemes. And I guess like this might just be the MO of the White Visitation, is that they do everything in sort of an overly complicated mousetrap.
Like the board game Mousetrap, the Rube Goldberg machine.
Mousetrap, yes, the Rube, that game. That I was trying to think of Rube Goldberg, but yes, the board game Mousetrap is sort of the way they go about all of their stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably why they need so much funding. I feel like they could accomplish the same goal with like a lot. Like they didn't need to book all the hotel rooms in the French Riviera. We didn't need the octopus stunt. Like, I feel like Slothrop maybe would have just agreed to go to class if they would have just and sleep with Katya if they would have just asked him.
This is like that that tweet about the Star Wars prequel movies that's like, Emperor Palpatine wants Padme dead, but he doesn't want to do it himself, so he asks Count Dooku to do it, who doesn't want to do it himself, so he gets Jango Fett to do it, who doesn't want to do it himself, so he gets a changeling bounty hunter to do it, who doesn't want to do it herself, so she gets Bugs to do it. This is just the White Visitation. This is how all of their plans go.
maybe it's a Pynchon's commentary on sort of war budgets and the excess of war departments and how far they're willing to go to accomplish an end.
And like bureaucracy, like we get some great commentary on bureaucracy later on, but I think this idea that like one person higher up kind of has an idea and then it gets filtered down through like 7 layers, and like maybe someone in each layer is like, you know what, we should add a little flourish to this octopus business, and like,
or it's just like you have an asset of like, so listen, I know no one here is excited about the octopus, but we do have to use the octopus. And I know we're all a little mistrustful of the mysterious femme fatale who is now sort of like a British intelligence asset domestically and not over in Skaveningen. So we'll need to use her too.
Like figure out how to do this with both of these things, because we need to show the higher ups that we made use of this expensive octopus and his aquarium.
My best friend, Kevin Spectro, died to get me this octopus.
The Prime Minister's office is trying to account for why we paid for this octopus. The taxpayers want to know.
You know when like sort of the world's worst group project, you get stuck with all of these people and you have to come up with a way to do it together.
I mean, isn't that just the government?
Yeah. Wow.
So they mention rainbows here. I don't want to skip over this. That it is. This is some Katja interiority, presumably. It feels very focalized. She says, between you and me is not only a rocket trajectory, but also a life. And then down below, there's a curve each of them feels unmistakably. It is the parabola. They must have guessed once or twice, guessed and refused to believe that everything always collectively had been moving toward that purified shape latent in the sky, that shape of no surprise, no second chances, no return. Yet they do move forever under it, reserved for its own black and white bad news, certainly as if it were the rainbow and they its children.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting they pointed out that they were each at the opposite end of the V2 rocket rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
Like Slothrop was always on the receiving end, and Katja for a long time was always on the sending end. And so they were quite literally like the gold pots at the bottom of the V2 rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means, but
we'll continue to find out. There's a lot more about trajectory to discuss in this, in these sections.
I had 2 things I wanted to point out from the past couple of pages. One was this idea of Katja having a futureless look.
Yeah, this comes up a lot.
Yeah. I think it relates to some of what we've talked about already with regards to inertia and free will. But Slothrop keeps referring to her as having a futureless look to her face. And then the second thing I wanted to discuss briefly is Slothrop has brought up a couple times this idea of the forbidden wing.
Mm-hmm.
In all caps. And originally I thought it was a forbidden wing of the casino. But then as I've been reading further, I've been wondering if this is sort of the part of his brain that he's like not able to access after his conditioning as a baby. And I was curious if you all also got that impression.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a line, the one that I flagged. Back in a room early in Slothrop's life, a room forbidden to him now is something very bad. So presumably, yeah, something he's, I guess, repressed.
I feel like
something he might have in ARF too.
There's a lot of or something going on with exploration of repressed memories. Brigadier Pudding has PTSD as well. We'll get to Brigadier in a bit. But he's got some repressed memories. Slothrop's got some repressed memories. There's something. I feel like there was a line in here about.
But this
memory.
is what Ned Pointsman, the abreactions, that he wants to make people into these blank slates by provoking these abreactive revitalization of these repressed memories.
But he's not really able to, right? Because
not with Slothrop.
He was
he
supposed
would
to
love
make
to get in
Slothrop
there
into a blank slate, but he's not. Like, there is still this forbidden wing.
Well, he still can't seem to figure out the conditioning. Like, he understands something of the response, which is like erections and sex, but he doesn't exactly know what the conditioning was, besides the fact that it has something to do with the rockets.
Yeah.
We'll just have to figure out what's in the forbidden wing.
Indeed. Maybe that's what the rest of this book is about, because we're still not even halfway through.
Once again, it feels like a little video game thing where, like, in the first level in Metroid, where you, like, see a door that you don't get to open until the end of the game. I bet Thomas Pynchon is probably not that trite, but we'll see. Slothrop wants to grow a mustache in the meantime. He does grow a mustache. It's pretty quick.
The sentence, "So as the mustache waxes, Slothrop waxes the mustache," is my favorite sentence, maybe ever.
One of those sentences that's like, did the sentence come first? Did the pun come first, Thomas? And then you wrote the section of the book around it?
Yeah, 100%. He thought of that and then wrote everything to get there.
Did either of you look up Wyatt Earp?
No, because I know all about
I know who
Wyatt Earp
is.
You knew who Wyatt Earp was?
This has come up when you and I have watched the television show masterpiece Deadwood a lot, that I think you just missed out on sort of like a lot of
the
cowboy.
History Channel used to run non-stop cowboy before they got into World War II documentaries and aliens. It was all like Robert Carradine.
Shootout at the OK Corral.
Shootout at the OK Corral stuff. Robert Carradine, maybe the other Carradine.
I feel like if anyone should know Wyatt Earp, it should be me, because it looks like he's from Kansas.
Yeah.
From Wichita.
Well,
I guess he's from Illinois. But
wait, what Carradine are you thinking of?
Robert Carradine is the Revenge of the Nerds guy. I'm thinking of a different Carradine. I'm thinking of David Carradine.
David.
Who is in Kill Bill.
Oh, yeah.
Is this the David Carradine? Is this? I think he also did a lot of these documentaries.
David Carradine did a lot of the documentaries?
Let me look this up. This might be a separate Carradine still.
You find the Carradine you're thinking about. Meanwhile,
I think I'm just going to have to file away Wyatt Earp as one of the two names of cowboys I now know.
Well, I mentioned Deadwood because, like, you know, episode 1 of Deadwood, Calamity Jane shows up, and I'm like, Calamity Jane, and you're like, who is Calamity Jane?
Yeah, like, how do you know these names?
Why do you know all of these people? And it's like, well, you know,
I know, like, Buffalo Bill Cody.
Wild Bill Hickok.
I now know him, but I didn't before.
Billy the Kid.
I feel like there was a book I read about a cowboy in Oklahoma.
I think this file
that I'm forgetting the name of.
This is sort of the same. It's the same part of my brain that, like, you know, various pirates live in.
I think this might be like a gender thing, possibly.
Could be.
I'm not sure if I was, like, raised on cowboy movies, so to speak.
I wasn't raised on cowboy movies. I feel like you just osmosis this stuff.
I didn't really osmose much. Anyways, it's neither here nor there. He has a great mustache.
It was the third Carradine brother, Keith, who used to host Wild West Tech on the History Channel, and that's what the reference I was trying to make.
Yeah, okay, we got to the right Carradine eventually. Keith Carradine. Yeah, I do remember this. Wow, there's a Wikipedia page for the Carradine family.
Yeah, all three. I mean, 3 brothers or actor, or at least 3 brothers who are entertainers.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'll look up the Carradines later. Reader, go on your own journey and make of what you will of the Carradines' wild oats. But yeah, no, Wyatt Earp. I knew Wyatt Earp. Got a big mustache that Slothrop points down and keeps like chewing on the tips of until one of the Brits is like, kind of looks like a bad guy mustache. I know you're getting Wyatt Earp, but it kind of looks like John Wilkes Booth. And Slothrop's like, oh, I don't want to have a bad guy mustache, which is so powerfully revealing of Tyrone Slothrop's psychology that he's like, there's two kind of mustaches in this world. There's good guy mustaches and bad guy mustaches.
For this English general for knowing who John Wilkes Booth is. Doesn't seem like something that would have come up for him in his elementary education the way it did for us.
I don't know. I do think this is we continue the theme of the Englishification of Tyrone Slothrop with the mustache, that he is now sporting like a big waxed officer style stash.
Well, yeah, and later on he even starts to learn British English.
Mm-hmm.
English, as he calls it.
Sounding like who?
Who?
Cary Grant.
You called this in the
Cary
last
Grant. Yeah,
episode.
I wrote Lowell next to that. Sorry. I did call Cary Grant.
You ready to hear my Cary Grant impression when we get there?
Can't wait.
I haven't decided if I'm going to do it yet. We'll see.
It's around the time of the mustache talk that Slothrop realizes that he's starting to get aroused while he's doing his technical homework. And he can't quite figure out what to make of that.
We can't either, Tyrone. No one can.
So it seems, I feel like we've floated around theories about it being like the sound of the V2 rocket that was triggering Slothrop, but it seems like just reading about the V2 rocket is triggering Slothrop.
Yeah, there's something pornographic about the schematics and whatnot that he's looking at. At which point, he just hops on over to room 306. There's really, speaking of, we'll get to this later, but control and feedback systems, I think it is not coincidental that Pisces and the White Visitation seem to have created a sort of feedback loop for Slothrop between Katja and the German rocket study sessions.
Yeah, I mean, it's very, obviously Pavlovian. He gets his treat for doing the thing they want him to do.
Also, it's very similar to Katja's original position, right? So when we found her, Blacaro was presumably at work all day, and then he would come home, and they would have all the three of them would do their thing. And now here is Slothrop at school, and then when he goes home, they fuck. So,
yeah. Shall we move to Slothrop's attempt to figure out his situation? A little game of Prince.
Yeah, let's talk about the drinking game.
He makes a play.
Have y'all ever heard of this
seems like
game?
a fun drinking game.
No.
I haven't, but I've played very similar games where like you have to remember the code and re-say it, and
you catch people who are making mistakes.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the premise of many a drinking game.
I did look this up. There seems to be some speculation that this was a really popular game. I don't know if it still is because I didn't go to one of these schools, but some people online have said that they were historically kind of popular at Ivy League, like frat parties. In addition, that like this particular one? Like Prince or Whale's Tales or Whale Tale, or it goes by various names, but I saw some references online, and I think in the Weisenberger Companion that it's like, oh yeah, this was like they were playing this at Dartmouth in the 30s or whatever.
I mean, I guess that makes sense that you would write about the writing about the drinking game that you play, and that your character goes to the same school as you do, or the same group of schools.
Mm-hmm.
What drinking game would come to mind first for you two if you had to pick one to write about?
I feel like
you're kind of a beer pong fiend, Andrew.
I like beer pong. I like slap cup. I feel like, but those don't, I think, work for a novel. I think if you're working for a novel, it's is it? I never remember the name. The problem is that I don't remember the names of any. Is King Cup the one where you're sliding cards under the tab? Yeah, that I think, and then because then you still also have the rules and stuff that you're adding. I think that would work well for a novel.
Yeah, I agree.
King Cup was the one I thought of.
It is also probably not coincidental that we all attended the same school.
Yeah.
And we're just like, that one would come to mind for me.
For sure.
I feel like King Cup pretty popular. Like I knew King Cup in high school. So
Whoa, okay.
We would play King Cup. We would play King Cup on cross country trips and have to like drink water to be like hydrating before the race. We would play King Cup.
Wow. Just sticking those cards into a LaCroix can.
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember we were drinking just water.
Prince sounds fun. I guess.
Slothrop sure had fun.
I like his explanation of it. I think this is the scene that most closely resembles the sort of Navy rabble-rousing that we encountered in V. I feel like we're back at the sailor's grave.
Pig Bodine vibes. Yeah. Pig Bodine would absolutely be at the center of this.
Oh, Pig Bodine invented Prince. You know it.
Oh, yeah. Legends are told.
I like that the wait staff is like just trying desperately to keep up.
Beer steins of champagne.
I like that Slothrop has figured out that for whatever reason he has
he has not been given a bill.
Yeah, and he could just order whatever he wants, and he's like, you know what? Like I'm gonna to put that to the test. I'm gonna figure out the limits of this game.
There's a great description of drunkenness of Slothrop's head as a balloon, which rises not vertically but horizontally, constantly across the room whilst staying in one place.
I've been there, Slothrop.
There's a lot of balloon imagery that comes up. I was reminded of our balloon girl in V.
Mm-hmm.
It's right after that he starts to crawl under a table, and I was convinced he was going to Benny profane it and go to sleep.
Someone else Benny profaned it. I wrote down Benny next to the Scot rolled chuckling from his chair, remaining ambulatory for some 10 feet, where he goes to sleep against a potted palm. I wrote Benny in the margins.
Yeah. Oh, Benny.
Oh, Benny.
Hilarious visual to me of Slothrop trying to get over to Stephen and getting himself threaded among the legs of the chair, angling his head up to locate Dodson Truck's face, haloed by hanging fringe-shaded lamp. Can you walk? Just like up, like cornered in and like peeking his head out from underneath to be like, hey. It's really funny.
I didn't want to skip over Dodson Truck's sort of confusion at this game, because he got into this because he wanted to play chess with Slothrop, and Slothrop was like, I know another game, and then explained it, and then Dodson Truck was like, I'm not sure I really see the point. How does one win? And Slothrop goes, oh no, one doesn't win, one loses. One by one, whoever's left is the winner. And I feel like that's sort of the same game that they're all playing a little bit in this spycraft.
By they, do you mean the nations of Europe?
Yes, like the nations of Europe, but also like the spy situation. Like Katja's not winning, Dodson Truck's not winning, Slothrop's not winning. I'm not even sure Pointsman's winning.
No.
Like they're all losing sort of one by one. But yeah, I felt like that was a pretty apt description of both the war at large and also the sort of game that they're all twisted up in.
Like Slothrop in the chair.
Yes.
Grace, he warns himself. Grace. A nice little moment of Slothrop's religiosity poking through.
I felt like, we'll get to this in a while, but I just want to make a note to myself to return to this. I felt like there were kind of echoes of this whole scene where, you know, champagne is being poured, people are singing, it's like a raucous, grand time. I felt like there were echoes of this later in the mouse and rat celebration.
Oh, yeah, the show tune.
The show tune with the mice, the mouse and the rat, mice and the rats.
Mm-hmm.
We'll come back to that, but I just wanted to note that.
Yeah, we'll come back to it if we ever make it out of the first 10 pages of this chapter.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot going on here.
It is, yeah. We gotta unpack this. It only gets denser from here on out as they head outside, and Slothrop is impressed by the sunset. It reminds him of the American West. There's the presence of the creator that he can feel. This anachronism in primal red and yellow, purer than can be found anywhere today, a purity begging to be polluted. Of course, Empire took its way westward.
I liked that description a lot because I often find myself wondering what the sort of like American Midwest in particular looked like before it was all turned into farms.
Yeah.
What did it look like when the buffalo roamed?
The deer and the antelope play.
Yeah, the beautiful sunset in the distance, you know?
Well, I like that it looks like he says, one of those American Western paintings that are effectively anonymous because they're so ubiquitous.
But it's true, like it's the painting of the American West, but that doesn't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, and we know that deep in Slothrop's sort of unconscious, there is this strained, surreal American Western landscape.
I forgot about that.
I bet Crutchfield had a wider mustache.
I wonder if what's his name, Earp, shows up in Slothrop's imagination.
What do we think of these big freaky angels standing at the horizon of the world?
It was reminding me of the Remedios Varos painting we looked at in Lot 49. Maybe just Remedios Varos in general. These robed figures standing in the distance. Creepy. Did either of you read up or have better biblical knowledge than me about the angel that stood over Lübeck during the Palm Sunday raid?
We don't need biblical knowledge for it.
Historical knowledge?
Not even.
Book knowledge? Did I forget something? The companion's knowledge?
The Palm Sunday. The Palm Sunday is when that's the raid. That's the angel that is the V2 rocket.
You remember Saint Blaze?
That Carol
Saint Blaze
Eventer is looking for the guy, the wingman.
Yeah, Saint Blaze sees the angel over Lübeck.
Yeah. Oof. Sometimes I feel like this book might be easier if we just read it all in one fell swoop.
Mm-hmm.
I think we stretched this out, and I have fully forgotten about Saint Blaze. There's some other things that came back that I was like, whoa. That happened a while ago.
Right now, on the next page, when Slothrop was like, "Oh yeah, Nora Dodson Truck. I've heard that name before." That's when I realized who Stephen Dodson Truck was. With this whole first being like, it's a whole new character. I don't know.
Yeah,
I've not heard this guy's name before.
Character.
New guy. I've never heard of a Dodson Truck.
Anyway, yeah. I guess the British are bombing the hell out of Germany, and they're launching the V2s in retaliation. Fire what you got.
Yeah, I think there's some parity between the angels as described here and some of the sexual encounters that Slothrop and Katja have. The quote unmistakable long look that said "hurry up and fuck me" that brought the rockets hard and screaming. The A4s, which were to have been fired anyway a bit sooner instead. And this, the conversation here about no traffic whispering in circular driveways, no milliards of francs being wagered because of a woman or an entente of nations at any of the tables inside reminded me of that section in V where the waitress at the beer garden is talking about how the diplomats use the same verbiage to talk about waging war as they do for like their sexual conquests.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a, thing that seems to have stuck in Pynchon's craw. Steven's not having a good time though.
No, he's not having a good beach vacation.
What is Steven's hang up?
I'll take my best take at this, but I got kind of confused at this juncture. So he was married to Nora. They had a kid, he and Nora. They, capital T, took away his and Nora's kid and sent him to Indochina and won't tell him anything about the kid. And then they seem to have they, capital T, seem to have progressively made Dodson Truck impotent so that he can be like the perfect neutral observer.
Yeah, sort of neutral and neutered.
Yeah, and so he's sort of like, so he has he loved Nora, but then kind of had to let Nora go to be this neutered and neutral observer. And then I guess they selected him for this job with Slothrop because he's like a good observer to like neutrally track Slothrop's sexual arousal. But he's like intensely jealous of Slothrop.
We have a guy whose whole hang up is his erections, and we're going to get him to study this other guy who has a different kind of hang up about his erections.
It also seems like Nora was sleeping with the guy who can change his skin color according to Slothrop. And he was like 18, so like that's gotta hurt,
Well, and Evanter is obsessed with Nora, and we get in that earlier chapter.
Oh, that's Nora.
Everyone is obsessed with Nora.
The one with like the silky robes.
Who like steps in the rug, and then the rug relaxes ceilingward. That's Nora.
Ah, that's Nora.
And so he's like, everyone at work knows that my wife is unfaithful to me, and yet I still show up and take my assignments and come all the way out here. God knows what Nora is doing. I assumed that their son in Indochina was just that he joined the army.
Yeah, I think he's just fighting over there.
Well, but he says they're very polite when I ask, very polite, but they won't let me find out where he is.
Because I assumed he's doing like classified missions in Indochina.
Yeah, or I guess I thought they had just sort of like ferreted him away, but
I guess
it feels like kind of maybe he joined. I don't know. Yeah, I took from it, I think, sort of a middle line between you two, where I think he joined the army, and now Steven is asking for like specific updates, and they're kind of just like, yeah, he's fine. We're not going to give you his letters that he's writing home because we need you to be focused, but he's not dead. Like we would have told you if he was dead, kind of thing.
Or would we have? You'll never know, Steven.
Maybe we wouldn't.
Yeah, the son's name is Frank, just in case that comes up again.
Frank Dodson Truck.
Frank Dodson Truck. That's a name. Except he's
it's
British,
American
right?
Name.
Yeah. Frank Dodson Truck. Sorry to our British
Francis
listeners.
Dodson Truck.
Let's see. I know there's like Datsun. Is Datsun a
Datsun like Nissan? Are you going on is there a Datsun vehicle? I was thinking about that, but I came to the conclusion that I was just thinking of Datsun.
Yeah, Dodson's original production run began in 1931. So
what are the two words you're drawing a distinction between?
Datsun, Datsun. Yeah,
the international and original name for Nissan.
Dodson versus Dotson.
Yes. Although it says, according to Wikipedia, the UK pronunciation of Dotson is Datsun.
You know, I've always wanted the Dachshund.
That's different.
But I think there was a creek named after him.
It's good.
I think we're all just avoiding talking about this next song.
What's wrong with this song? This isn't even the worst song we get.
Oh.
They took his dick away. It's fine. Be an adult, Duri. They took this poor man's dick away. And it's a barbershop quartet, I guess.
You're asking me to be an adult about a song about a penis in the style of a barbershop quartet. I don't think Thomas Pynchon was being an adult.
Telephone. That's the bass part.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We don't sing the songs enough on this.
Yeah, well, we're not starting with this one.
That's not true. We sang
If only there was
the alma
fourth
mater.
member of the podcast, we could sing this one. One of the songs that's coming up, I think I absolutely pegged what the tune was, and I sang the whole thing to myself. I'm 100% confident I know the tune.
Didn't sing any of the songs, but I did vocalize the sort of mouse exchange that happens later.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah. I won't do my dramatic reading for the listeners, but it was fun on my own.
A little bit of an echo here of keep cool but care. I do care, believe me, Slothrop. Okay, tell me what's going on. I care. But he's not keeping cool.
Yeah, he does not seem to be keeping cool. He's sort of broken down on the beach. He's crying.
When your plan is to get someone drunk to get the info, you've got to walk a fine line.
And so the thing that Slothrop learns here, it's not much, but he learns that Stephen says, my function is to observe you. That's my function. You like my function? You like it? Your function is learn the rocket inch by inch.
Yeah, I thought this idea that they're both sort of mathematical functions feels apt, given that we later encounter an equation and Slothrop's reading sort of mathematical documents.
So we're back to the Angels, out at sea. The figures have been attending.
And we kind of swap contexts.
Another
throwback.
Nice little cinematic cut. Carol Eventer is back.
Imagine my dismay when I realized that I had to remember the relationship between Carol, the control's control,
Nora.
And Nora. Devastating.
I don't like Carol Eventer. He's kind of whingy.
Luckily, we don't get too much of Carol at this point. We're mostly getting Saxa, or Zaxa, as some of the folks at the White Visitation call him, which took me a minute to realize. One, I'd been pronouncing his name wrong as Sasha. It's Saxa, but that's why they're saying Zaxa.
Yeah, I read this section twice, and both times I was like, I guess I'm just going to punt on what this Zaxa thing is. Zaxa.
It's like Zoso on in a Led Zeppelin album.
Yeah.
I like this bit of that there is this room where the walls have been eroded at by shadows of operatives, as certain mirrors in public eating places have been, by the images of customers, a surface gathering character like an old face. The idea that like immaterial things change the surface character of things that they sort of reflect or bounce off of was interesting to me.
I just wanted to comment while we're in this, before we really, I guess, start talking about Peter Zoxa, this double agent Sammy Hilbert space. A Hilbert space is a mathematics thing. I don't really remember what it is, but I do know it's a mathematics thing.
That's more than I got out of it.
Yep, same.
It took me long enough to figure out that the adjective, is this the guy who looks like a fish? There's like a word I didn't recognize.
Is it scombroid?
Yeah, scombroid, which comes up with like a disease that is often the result of eating fish that have a certain bacteria, but scombroid is an adjective relating to like the tuna family or something. So he just kind of
looks like it involves sort of a flushing of the face, which is interesting because...
Well, I couldn't tell if scombroid meant that like as someone afflicted by the scombroid sickness, meaning sort of flushed and rash ridden, or if it meant scombroid named for the fish family that the disease is named after.
Oh, interesting. Well, if it has to do with the face, I feel like Pynchon is playing a lot with like pale faces, changing colors of faces.
Pale faces, black faces, reddened faces, yeah.
Yeah, but particularly in these sections, like a lot of very like pallid faces and like trying to bring color back into pallid faces.
So, a little bit more on Nora's ideology of the Zero. Firm among the stone-swept hair of the last white guardians at that last step off into the black, into the radiant. Again, we get, like, the end of the world is both dark and light at the same time. Like, it's both black and radiant, which I found interesting. I guess maybe is that like the edge of space for the angel rockets? It is black on one side and radiant on the other side, like in and out of the atmosphere.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, interesting. Just thought of that. So here we get, there's the scene here is that Peter Zoxa is about to get his skull cracked in.
For those who may not remember,
Peter is the medium back in the Weimar Republic that Lenny ran to with her daughter, Ilsa. So Lenny was married to Franz Pokler, Kurt Mondoggen's buddy. Lenny runs away from him, hangs out at the student dormitory for a little bit.
And we last saw Lenny and Peter at like a party Peter was holding for a bunch of up-and-coming Nazis.
Yeah, doing a seance for the Walter Rathenau bit. Mm-hmm.
And Lenny's sort of a communist, but also is like in a relationship with Peter, who seems to be in cahoots with the Nazis.
Yeah. She's like a leftist communist, seemingly with a bunch of Jewish friends, but also a raging anti-Semite.
Yes.
A contradictory woman. And this contradiction is a large part of their discussion because the main thing here seems to be that in the midst of being at this, like at some kind of crackdown, Peter is reminiscing on these conversations that he'd had with Lenny about like, why do you keep going to all of these demonstrations? Why do you hang out with these like revolutionary types? You know, you have a child, you need to be a mother to her. And Lenny is like, that's just what the ruling class wants you to think. I don't want to be a mother to my child. I want to be a human being to my child. And isn't it funny that she calls you mother, Peter?
Very pre-reminiscent, I guess, is maybe a word for one battle after another. The early conflict there between Tiana Taylor and Leonardo DiCaprio's characters. And I'm assuming Vineland. I assumed that this is in Vineland, but who's to say?
That's really apt, Andrew. I had not made that connection, but I can totally see that.
Yeah, so this is where Peter asks her, "You're her mother. What if they arrest you? What happens to her?" That's what Peter, can't you see? They want a great swollen tit with some atrophied excuse for a human bleeding around somewhere in its shadows. How can I be human for her, not her mother? Mother, that's a civil service category. Mothers work for them. Which is also interesting, I'm realizing now, because Roger Mexico's mother is the war.
Mm. Something else I thought was interesting in this section is, so we kind of learn how Peter died, which was in this raid in the street.
Which is an open question for Eventer. I think somewhere in here, they're like, Peter doesn't seem like he would be at a radical protest based on what we know about Peter, but he must have been there for love. Did Lenny get him there?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of interesting... I felt called back a little bit to V. They keep referring to the street. He's in the street. Is he out of the street? They talk about love in the street.
There's street light and advertising light, two additional compound light nouns.
Yeah, like they keep asking, like, did she goad him into the street? He died in the street. I don't know. I thought, like, first of all, that called back to the street that, like, the sort of canonical street that keeps showing up in V. But also, it kind of felt related to me to some of the Preterite versus elect stuff that we've been talking about, that Peter was kind of in the elect. He was in this, like, holding these elite parties. He was communing with the dead, but he died in the street. And so he kind of, like, found his, how did he end up in the Preterite?
Yeah, and then he chooses Eventer. Like, he is the one who gets in touch with Eventer on that day in the park or whatever that Nora Dodson Truck remembers. The complex web between all these characters, which is why Eventer is then like, so if I'm kind of like Peter, does that mean that Nora is kind of like Lenny?
I've got a question about this section. So at the beginning, this double agent, Sammy Hilbert Space, comes and is kind of making fun of Carol Eventer, who's been brought up from the White Visitation to London specifically for this. And Eventer sort of realizes, because he hasn't been asked, I guess, to reach out to Peter Sasha about a specific person, that they must want to talk to Peter Sasha. And then he realizes that this Sammy Hilbert Space has been reading the unedited transcripts of his seances, and Carol Eventer only ever gets the edited version of the transcripts, because as we learned last time, he doesn't remember what he says. He just works as the medium. Why don't they want him to know how Peter Zoxa died? Like, they specifically tell him not to ask, and I'm very confused. Like, what the motivation for that is, because it doesn't seem that bad.
I would assume
like
we don't have the information yet. Like, there's something deeper about Peter and his relation to, I mean, later on at the tail end of the stuff we're reading here, we get some musings on the kind of petrochemical capitalist international state, like intrastate conspiracy. So I don't know if we know that, like, some of the IG Farben guys were at Peter's seances. So, like, could have been a hit on Peter. Who's to say? I'm not sure that or maybe they don't want... I can't imagine this story's done. Maybe they don't want him thinking about Nora in the way that Peter thinks about Lenny.
Yeah, I guess if Peter died for Lenny, if not because of Lenny, and then Carol Eventer starts thinking about dying on behalf of Nora, I guess that would be bad. Carol Eventer doesn't seem that helpful, but maybe they think he is.
But also, it's the state that kills Peter, and maybe they don't want Carol Eventer being like, wait a second, is the state going to kill me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good point. Huh. Watch this. Hilbert Space.
It's good. I'd completely forgotten that Hilbert's base even showed up in this chapter, so... But now I'm looking, I do have an annotation of lull at... I just thought you thought you'd just check in? Just thought I'd check in.
This web is going to get so complex. I feel like we've already woven a pretty complex conspiracy. And earlier I said we're not even halfway through the book. We're a third of the way through the book. We have a lot more web to go.
How bad can it be? Listener, if you know how bad it can be, don't tell us. I did think it was interesting, having looked ahead a little bit by marking the page. The last section of this book is called The Counterforce, and we get the force capitalized here on page 222. Two sorts of movement across a clear skirmish line from the force will bring together people who will remain that way for a time. So too love here in the street can be taken centrifugally apart again. So we'll see what the force and counterforce is about, I guess.
Mm. I wonder if the street, that might be an archetypal thing.
Force and counterforce?
Yeah, in this case it's in the Weimar Republic, but might the force and counterforce persist across conflicts?
Mm-hmm. Is history like a sine wave?
Ooh. Or a parabola.
The parabola
or
that
something
Peter...
that flips and flops.
Like a parabola.
Parabola does flip and flop.
And flopping. If you connect it, it's a sine wave.
I don't think a sine wave. Is a sine wave parabolic, Andrew?
No.
No.
Well,
I don't think so.
It kind of looks like a series of
that's
collaboratives,
definitely not.
upside
I don't know why I said if I think so.
The parabola that most directly affects Peter, though, is the swing of the club that hits its peak of potential energy and then comes crashing down onto his skull. Regrettably for Peter. But he's not going anywhere, I guess. Sir Stephen vanishes. And then Katya, whose face is as pale as her hair, going to your point, Duri, a rain witch, really sort of chews Slothrop out about his conduct with Stephen the night prior.
Yeah, I was a little confused through this section, sort of what Katya's aim was here.
They have...
I feel like she knows. There's sort of that first round of the I don't know what the word I'm trying to say is, of the plan. The first phase of the plan sort of has come to an end. And then the second phase, where I think the idea is he hangs out with Katya and he takes lessons from SDT. And now that SDT is gone, I think Katya knows she's about to get pulled too, because I sort of think by explaining that he's watching them, it's implicit that Katya is sort of involved.
Which everybody already knew,
extent.
but it's a different thing to have it confirmed.
I guess so.
Yeah, Slothrop knows, but now they know Slothrop knows. And so now Katya is being pulled. And I think she's kind of pissed about that. Because I do still think she kind of likes Slothrop. But again, we see what she's doing after she gets pulled from this job. She is still in the French Riviera. This does seem to be, even if it's a job, a better position than she gets stuck at later. So I think she's you're kind of wrecking my gig here, man, by being curious.
Do you know what the tips are like down at the at the gaming tables on a good weekend? I think that's part of it. This whole sequence of their initial sexual encounter starts off very sort of chaste is the wrong word, but very sort of classic Hollywood, back and forth, trading little quips and jokes, and Slothrop.
It feels like playful and sweet at points.
Yeah,
earlier on
they have like their slapstick pillow fight, and Slothrop even.
This feels rapey.
Yeah, well, he even describes as much when he calls himself the Cagney of the French Riviera, who I looked up was like an actor back in like the 30s who was well known for playing like gangster types. So this is like, now we're in a very different type of movie here that is violent and sort of, at best, in Slothrop's case, very dubiously consensual.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, yeah.
I think you can, like, this is what I mean when I say that, like, a lot of, it seems that, like, a lot of Katja's interiority over what sex is about is about what the Rockets are about, and it's about this kind of psychology of, like, asking for it without asking for it. And I think if we're trying to understand sort of her conditioning around sex and power dynamics, I think this is a recurring thing with her, is this weird, very disturbing kind of game. Like, is this still a game to Katja?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not even sure all of this has been consensual. Like,
yeah, no, that's...
I mean, she's here for work, but also she feels like she's trapped here, or like she can't get out of this job. And I'm not 100% convinced that this whole excursion has been consensual.
Yeah.
It does not feel like she's an employee of the White Visitation because she needed a job. Like, I think she showed up in England and they put her to work in this job, and if she didn't have this, they'd probably just send her back to Holland. Like, it seems, yeah, like she works here because she's in England and that's all she can do.
Which leads to her kind of self-erasure of identity. She doesn't ever want Slothrop to look at her face straight on. He only ever sees the face that is no face, the lifeless non-face that is the only face of hers he really knows or will ever remember.
Well, and it kind of also speaks a little bit to Slothrop, on one level, is aware of this sort of ruse that he's been set up with. And on the other level is sort of kind of maintaining, at least for a period of time, kind of blissful ignorance. Like, he's got a kind of a sweet deal. He's living on the French Riviera. He's not fighting in the war. He's not in his sort of boring, bleak job back in London. He's getting to have sex with this beautiful woman. And he sort of seems to, for at least a period of time, kind of just live in this space of like blissful ignorance and maybe ignore the reality, the darker reality that he sees underneath, that like, one, he's being spied on, but also two, maybe Katja is not entirely here by her own will. And like, does she really enjoy being with Slothrop? And why does she have this like futureless face, this horrible, terrible face? Why does she keep hiding her face?
It somehow only appears after they have sex.
Yeah, like there's this dark undercurrent that's happening that I feel like Slothrop is sort of choosing to maybe not pay attention to for a little while.
When we get a little bit here of classic with Pynchon, like, it is not super clear if this is focalized through Katja and we are getting her interiority, or if this is sort of a neutral narration, or if this is Slothrop's impression of the situation. But like, he is pretty sure, and the narrator seems to be pretty sure, that like, if Katja wanted to, Slothrop would be out cold on the floor if she wanted that to happen. Like, she is making sort of like defensive judo maneuvers with her hands. And the narrator even says her timing, in fact, is drastically off through all of this, else she would likely be handing Slothrop's ass to him. It may be that she wants her foot to miss, only scraping Slothrop along the leg. So, like, I think that's what I mean when I say, like, how much of this, even to Katya now, is, like, a game that she is playing. Like, we're playing a different sex game right now, and that sex game is a much darker, scarier thing, which is also, as we know, the kind of games, quote unquote, that she was sort of abused by in Blaquero's hideout.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see where the book goes with this, but I think Katya's consensuality here in the Blaquero situation is purposefully ambiguous.
Yeah, for sure. What's it like in London, Slothrop, when the rockets come down? She asks. To which Slothrop replies, if it doesn't hit you, then you're okay. Which is true of many types of projectiles and explosions.
Well, and then there's this kind of bizarre sequence where they've just had this very violent sexual episode. And then Katya sort of makes him recite the information that he's been studying in school.
Which even the narrator...
Like, giving him like a pop quiz.
Yeah.
Which even the narrator gets kind of bored of by just making him go blah, blah, blah. And then just a juicy little bit from Pynchon where he's saying, like, the bridge music here is bright with xylophones, is based on some old favorite that will comment ironically but gently on what is transpiring. Which just feels like Thomas Pynchon explaining the trick that he uses many, many times in his books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they do this pop quiz kind of continues. She starts thinking about this, the Weisenberger companion notes, this thing about Der Pfau being a nickname that the SS called the V2, does not seem to be based on anything historical, but could be a sort of German pun. But this idea of peacocks came up for me. We'll get to it later, but by the time we get to the outfit that Slothrop chooses to wear to the party at the end of this sequence that we're reading for tonight, it's kind of dressed like a peacock rainbow. I don't know where this is going, but the peacock stood out to me. And this is maybe the moment of interiority that I was thinking of all along for Katya, where we get from the narrator, Katya has understood the great airless arc as a clear allusion to certain secret lusts that drive the planet and herself, and those who use her, over its peak and down, plunging, burning, toward a terminal orgasm, which is certainly nothing she can tell Slothrop. So, like, as she understands the world, things are in sort of like, they rise up, they arc, and then they're down in a free fall. And you don't always understand the desire that pushes you toward your eventual, like, terminal point. But she feels carried along by it, and also understands that she is being used by other people in the same way.
Yeah, and Slothrop, I mean, she doesn't tell Slothrop this, but he gets the sense that she's leaving.
Like Roger and Jessica.
Yeah.
A little bit of a mirror of that scene.
A little bit, yeah. And I mean, he calls back to the roulette game. A roulette ball goes rattling somewhere back in another room. She's running. Why? Has he come too close again?
I like this question of, what have we been talking about all the time? And he says the A4 rocket, which is not the right answer. That is not the sort of last hope that Katya had to, like, talk about the thing they need to talk about without talking about it. Slothrop fails the test. He's like, yeah, the quiz is about the rocket.
She tells him there that he doesn't want her. What they're after may, but you don't. You don't want me. What they're after may, but you don't. It's because she still likes him, guys. She likes him somewhere deep down.
Yeah.
I believe it. That's why she asks this question. I think this is the most kind of vulnerability that she can show is like, what do you think we're doing here?
It's very Rachel and Benny.
Unfortunately, he gives kind of the
worst answer.
He gives the ostensible answer, like the obvious answer.
I mean, Slothrop doesn't really give the impression of being like
the brightest bulb.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to take to this stuff fairly well.
Yeah, like he does seem to be pretty good at like learning these manuscripts, but he doesn't seem to be.
It's sort of the interpersonal.
Astute. Yeah, at his like interpersonal figuring out other people. Introspection, being like he doesn't even really seem to tune into like until it's really spelled out for him that like they're interested in his erections, even though there's like a guy that's like standing over him, like watching that, and he's like sort of inexplicably being turned on when he's reading these blueprints, but he's just like, that's odd. I guess I'll go have sex with Katja now.
So American.
Yeah. An American obliviousness.
Then something like pity comes into her face and goes again. The narrator says, and she replies, they're talking about that weird moment at the roulette wheel. She says, maybe you'll find out. Maybe in one of their bombed out cities beside one of their rivers or forests, even one day in the rain, it will come to you. You'll remember the Himmlerspiessal and the skirt I was wearing. The rainbow.
I feel like it's worth noting what she looks like here.
What's she look like?
They describe her face in a lot of detail. Her eyebrows are plucked to wings, darkened, eyes rimmed in black. Only the outboard few lashes missed and left blonde. Cloudlight comes... There's your cloudlight. Cloudlight comes slanting down across her face, taking away color, leaving little more than a formal snapshot, the kind that might appear on a passport. Which... First of all, like we've been playing a lot with Katja's face. It feels almost like a mask or like a full face of like makeup that you would like wear in a play or something, or like even like a sort of like geisha face of makeup. And then also this idea that like it's sort of like a formal snapshot, the kind that might appear on a passport. Like she's kind of...
Oh, you know, she's got the Bourne Identity sort of passport shoebox of a variety of different pseudonyms.
I guess it's like this idea that like she almost showed her interior self to Slothrop. Like she's had this face, this mask. She like hides her face, or this horrible inside of her. Like she almost reveals part of it to Slothrop, but then like at this point, she's kind of shut back down into this like identityless formal snapshot, the sort of like generic spy, like the mask is back on.
Mm-hmm. But as they're sitting on the bench, what's that? What's that noise? It be kazoos.
Kazoo band is back.
The kazoo band.
It took us this long into a Thomas Pynchon book to get another kazoo time.
Wow.
But he took us there.
Thomas Pynchon must have heard a kazoo band once and been like, this is the greatest thing. It's going in all my books. I'm going to work this into anything I write. A bunch of kazoos together. What could be greater?
The end of this finally also feels very Hollywood, of sort of, Katja never wasted a cigarette. So Slothrop smokes the one that she left.
Very Hollywood scene.
On the table.
Clark Gable staring off into the distance.
Shall we pause there?
Honestly, like, sorry, I have one more thing to say.
We shan't.
I just brought up Clark Gable. I feel like this whole scene where the violent sex scene between them feels very Clark Gable and Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
That's all.
I mean, that movie is about a lot of things, obviously.
Yeah,
but that movie,
there's a lot going on in that movie.
That movie is about, like, people who are living a sort of idealized fantasy version of a relationship that is largely predicated on like anger and resentment and force in more ways than one.
I've seen Gone with the Wind.
No,
I'm not like here to promote the movie.
No, but it's
a lot of problematic threads going on, but
that's why they put the disclaimer at the beginning. Solves everything.
Learn the historical context. But yeah, I do feel like there's like a particular kind of like violent sexual scene that I feel like might, especially with all the allusions that Pynchon is making to old Hollywood.
Yeah. Well, Katja is in a sort of Gone with the Wind, Scarlett O'Hara way, kind of like a crafty, manipulative woman.
Yeah. Yeah.
Characteristically.
A little bit of a scary woman.
We'll see where that goes. What else could Katja possibly get up to over the course of the next sequences that we read?
Stay tuned.
I think, yeah, let's break before we get there. Pynchon Pals will be right back. Welcome back to Pynchon Pals. This is sequence 2.4. 2.4. Pointsman poetically muses on aging's effects on responses to stimuli. More on that soon. The Slothrop working group at Pisces is fretting over its dwindling funding, but Pointsman manages to keep the peace by mentioning his recent meetings with Clive Moss-Moon. Does that name sound familiar? In the plastics industry. AV technician Webley Silvernail gets roped into a hallucinatory song and dance showstopper by the lab rats. And the 1974 Pulitzer Prize Committee's charges of obscenity find purchase once again as Brigadier Pudding slips over to the psych ward of the White Visitation for a Pointsman-mandated and trench-conditioned corporophagia session with a dominatrix we recognize as Katja, acting as Lady of the Night.
Name is Pudding.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
This is the scene that was loosely alluded to, I think, in an earlier note by Weisenberger that I was like, well, I guess there's more poop stuff to come later in this book. Presaged by some early note, I think. Or some mention of corporophagia. There's a SAT word for you.
Is it? I don't think that's an SAT word. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that is not an SAT, or that's not even a GRE word.
How many AR points do you think Gravity's Rainbow is worth? Do you think you get like a pizza at Pizza Hut if you take
probably
the
get
AR
a
test?
PTA conference as to why is your child reading this book?
I don't know if our international listeners or our older listeners know what AR tests were, but you would go onto the computer and answer some questions about the book that you read in elementary school, and then you would get points, and you could turn those points into pizza at participating pizza joints. Y'all had AR tests, right?
I have that now.
Didn't have AR tests?
We did. I think we did. I don't really remember the test so much. I just remember having AR books. And you tried to read like a certain number of AR books.
Maybe my like kind of small elementary school district just had like a grant for getting the computer lab hooked up to the AR program. Who's to say?
I mean, I don't really have access to like chain pizza restaurants that might be participating. It might be a thing that other kids in North Carolina did, but it's like, don't tell those guys because they would just feel left out.
Okay. That we will ease into the section that who really wants to talk about, but I actually have some things to say about it, so we'll get there. Pointsman has a poem. He's thinking about Pavlov at the age of 83, talking about how normally we react complexly to fit the ever-present contents of our environment, but when you're old, concentrating on one stimulus, we exclude by negative induction other collateral and simultaneous stimuli because they do not suit the circumstances. There's a reference here in Pointsman's little poem that it says he never shares with anyone at the White Visitation. He's just kind of presumably writing these things to himself. But there's a reference to Grotesquerie, which is a sort of tossing things game, kind of like horseshoes, it seems.
Like a Russian folk sport.
Yeah. There's like wood and there's bats and or like I guess wood. I guess they're bats. It looks like a bat in this image. But it is another example of tossing things up and then watching them come down. Y'all have any thoughts on Pointsman's poem?
When I read that he wrote poetry and didn't share it, I was like, oh, maybe Pointsman's a good guy after all.
No.
And then I read 2 more pages and I was like, I guess bad guys can write poetry and keep it to themselves.
I feel like Pointsman is still flying high. He's got his shtick figured out.
He really seems to have come into his own in the White Visitation.
Thriving.
Well, we know why he's thriving. Because he's blackmailing Brigadier Pudding.
Or he's, sort of helping him resolve his abreactive trauma. This is part of the process, Andrew.
He's figured out bureaucracy.
In the meantime, he's gone and got himself, he's literally had a glow up. He's bought a nice lab coat from the people who make Tantavi's sport jackets. That's how much extra funding he has.
In this parched and fallow time, he gushes affluence.
What is you remember the season 1 episode of Andor where sort of Imperial functionary Cyril gets his uniform tailored and all of the other functionaries are like, did you tailor your Imperial uniform? He's like, I had it taken in a little bit. This is Pointsman. For sure.
Yeah, he's sort of riding high on the modicum of power he's been given. Running the Slothrop working group.
Duncan Sandys, real guy alert. There's a couple other real guys who I'll mention later, but
the Prime Minister's son-in-law?
Yeah. Who was eventually embroiled in some sexual scandals sometime after this book was published.
Classic son of the head
Prime Minister
politician. Fitzmaurice House is made up. I tried to Google it, and there does seem to be a thing called Fitzmaurice House currently, but it is not this Fitzmaurice House, is what I've gathered. Is that what our friend in the book, whose name I've forgotten?
Yeah, I saw there was some back and forth on not just this. I don't actually think it was the Fitzmaurice House, but there was something else that the Pynchon wiki that also has a glossary of some things points out that Weisenberger occasionally doesn't track down that in fact there is this building on this street that in 1943 housed this department of the war effort or something. So some of these things are, if they were in fact named for things, are effectively buried under the decades. But it's possible Thomas, but I saw an anecdote somewhere that from someone who knew Pynchon, and Pynchon came to visit them in London, and they're recorded as saying that after 2 weeks of hanging out around London, Thomas Pynchon seemed to know the city and its history better than the person who'd been living there for most of their adult lives. So, maybe there's some house somewhere that Pynchon is thinking of, but I couldn't find it either.
Pointsman in this section really reminded me, and I am not good enough at movie references to say what movie specifically, but he reminded me of a character in a movie playing a manager who's managing a project that's a little too big for his britches, and is really trying to keep everything under control and like thinks that he's still in charge of the situation, even though it's like clearly spiraling out from under him.
Like The Office. Are we thinking of The
Steve Carell? She's thinking of the British version of The Office, of course.
Yeah, of course, the British version.
No, I think you're right. That he's like, look, the good news is we are funded well into fiscal year 46. So we've got plenty of runway. And don't worry, I'm talking to some people.
Yeah, and like maybe it's reminding me a little bit of Severance, of like sort of like a manager trying to like demonstrate his power to the other people, like his underlings, while clearly like it's clear his tenure is not long.
Yeah.
Like he only has power over these like 4 people, and only for a very limited period of time.
And everybody knows that.
Yeah, except him.
Yeah.
Like he thinks he has it all figured out and will be, and you know, who knows, maybe the joke's on me and Pointsman will be rising to the top of London's best and brightest by the end of this book. But
on the back of Clive Mossmoon, who thought we were getting Clive again?
Clive.
I knew who he was. When this husband of a
too.
character we've already learned showed up, I was like, I know Mossmoon.
You can't forget a name like Scorpia Mossmoon.
We'll get Beaver one of these days. Any day now. Duri, you told me before we even started recording that you wanted to talk about Pointsman's approach to bureaucracy.
I just feel like this is tied in with a lot of thoughts I've had myself recently.
Everyone on this podcast is engaged in some way in sort of like the echelons and chambers of a highly bureaucratic enterprise.
Pointsman says, whatever it is, Pointsman has a slight advantage. By facing squarely the extinction of his program, he has gained a great bit of wisdom. That if there is a life force operating in nature, still there is nothing so analogous in a bureaucracy, nothing so mystical. It all comes down, as it must, to the desires of individual men. And then a little bit of a derogatory comment about women. But surviving depends on having strong enough desires, on knowing the system better than the other chap and how to use it. And I feel like I have had some frustrations recently, which I will not get into specifics about, with people and navigating bureaucratic rules. And I feel like the people I like to work with are the people who can push their way through the bureaucracy. Like there are obstacles. There are going to always be obstacles in your way to getting done what you need to get done. There's always red tape. But the people who are most effective are the ones who see the red tape and ask not, and they don't, their first response is not like, oh, there's a rule, I should follow it. Guess I have to like say no to this or not do this. But the people you really want working with you are the ones who are like, oh, well, this is a rule that's written on a sheet of paper. Let's figure out like how to make what you want to happen.
Or this is, you go with a problem and it's like, oh, well, clearly we can solve that problem. We just have to find a creative way to do it.
Yeah, like we have to figure out the set of rules that we can like apply to solve your problem. And there is a way within the bureaucracy. We just need to find it. And I feel like Pointsman has figured this out.
In a manner of speaking, yes.
In a manner of speaking. I don't agree with Pointsman on much, but I do feel like he has figured out the magic that like there's this system that exists. You just got to like make it work for you and like find your way through it. And then I think he takes this in maybe more of a nefarious way where he seems to have realized that you can manipulate the individuals in a bureaucracy to achieve what you want, which is not what I'm advocating
desires. For. Yeah.
Not what I am advocating for.
I do not agree with Ned Pointsman on everything t-shirt is raising a lot of questions already answered by my t-shirt. You do not, under any circumstances, gotta hand it to Ned Pointsman.
I agree with Ned Pointsman on exactly 1/3 of a paragraph. I do not agree with his take on women.
When the worst guy you know makes a good point.
Man. Yeah, I'm interested to understand, like, clearly this is working for Pointsman, but in the context of the book as a whole, I'm curious to see if Pointsman is right about this. Because there's another way of thinking about this, that, like, Pointsman is deluding himself that he has any kind of handle on this system that clearly has already trapped him in a kind of death spiral.
Oh, yeah. Like, I think Pointsman is not getting out of this in a great place. Like, he's absolutely going to get his ass handed to him.
Look, guys, his thrusters are still on. At some point, he's going to have Brinch loose, and then we're going to see where he ends up.
God, the Brinch loose. Is there going to be like a page precisely halfway through this novel where it's like Brinch loose?
Yeah, but right now, Pointsman is sort of masterfully running meetings, a master manipulator.
Even Dog Vanya is momentarily in an ordinary state of mind, if not of kidneys.
I feel like something that might be going on here is that, like, Pointsman is having a moment of, like, sort of excelling. He is, like, really bad with people. He sees everything as very, like, black and white, and has sort of, like, tried to boil down the entire human psyche into
cause and effect,
which I feel like is clearly wrong. And I feel like we're getting this contrast. We've talked about this before, of, like, Pointsman with Roger Mexico, and, like, these, like, tender, very human moments between, like, him and Jessica, or even, like, the connection. Like, Pointsman tried to orchestrate this whole cause and effect thing between Katja and Slothrop, but in fact, like, they kind of, like, connected on a more human level than maybe he had anticipated. And I'm just wondering, like, where this book is going to head, if it's, like, you know, Pointsman, with his sort of manipulative view of people, is, like, in this one present moment in his little bureaucracy, like, thriving. But I'm wondering if it's all going to come crashing down around him precisely because he does not actually understand how people work, and, like, underestimates maybe the complexity and depth to the human psyche.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's working on his sort of conditioning viewpoint of the world, but as we've seen, like, he can't really control Sloth. Like, he doesn't understand how to control Slothrop through this. And we got this quote from Pavlov at the beginning of this section that says, as you get older, you don't respond to things the way that we anticipate you doing when you're younger. So there's clearly sort of more mechanisms going on, and he's got a handle on one of them. But when, like, that is no longer the primary method, he's gonna lose.
He has, like, one way out of the labyrinth, which is, like, keep turning right. Which only works in some labyrinths. And maybe not this one. It does not work in a multi-cursal labyrinth, but only in a unicursal one.
And Slothrop's brain is clearly a multi-cursal labyrinth.
Clearly.
Webley Silvernail, had we met him before?
Very briefly.
Really?
Yeah, he's the guy. I went back and found it. He's the guy who wheels the AV equipment from the Blackwing film into the octopus tank room so that Grigori can watch the Katja cam footage. He just seems to be like the AV guy of the White Visitation. Which doesn't seem, I mean, compared to some of the other gigs at the White Visitation, it doesn't seem like the worst one. And clearly not, because he maybe has the best time of anyone in the book so far, as he walks by these all of the lab rats in their cages, and then
kind of there's like Pynchon sort of imagines a conversation that all the lab rats are having about Silvernail, which made me laugh.
And they all sound like they're sort of like stereotypical, like Italian-esque Brooklynites.
Interesting. Yeah, I was trying to figure that out. I kind of like thought they were like sort of like kid-like voices almost, but then I was wondering if there was some sort of like caricaturing going on here.
I could see the kids sort of what's the movie about the kids who can the kid who can wiggle his ears? Little Rascals.
Yeah,
Little Rascals.
I just think, I think Use Guys reads less kid. I mean, it reads like squeaky cartoon Italian mouse voice of like.
I guess, maybe I'm just associating. Maybe they were always caricaturing, and I'm just associating like the kid voice with like squeaky mouse on Looney Tunes.
Careful, Use Guys.
Yeah, that's how I read it.
Here comes the screw.
You're just doing. You're not doing a mouse. You're doing 8 Crazy Nights.
Adam Sandler will make a cameo in my adaptation of Gravity's Rainbow playing the mice. And the whole Sandler crew is there playing all of the mice. Kevin James is also there. Rob Schneider, unfortunately, also snuck onto the studio lot.
As I was reading this, they used the abbreviation in it now.
In it.
I''N''T. And I, of course, understood what that meant. But I was reading this and I was like, if you were like English as a second language, I do not know how you would ever interpret what that possibly meant.
Think of how the translators feel when they're putting this, you're translating this into
translate that?
Spanish or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine being on page 232 of this book as an ESL person and being like, this INT is really what's throwing me here?
I have to say, I won't name specifics here, but I just recently went to see a play that was originally written by a British playwright, performed by Americans, but the script was clearly written in a very kind of British idiom and included several like instances of "isn't it?" and like the word "shall," where most Americans would use like "should." And it was a little jarring, but it also reminded me of this book in a weird way. Because like occasionally I forget that these characters are British and Pynchon is doing his best to replicate that with some innits.
Oh, see, I was thinking of the in it as like Southern.
I thought
in it.
In it now.
In it
now.
In it now. Rather than in it.
Oh.
I feel like we would do INIT as one word is probably the way I would have written this.
In it. Yeah, there's definitely a D in there in the American version.
In it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
in it. Because there's already a second it separately. INT space it. In it. It.
Yeah.
In it.
This lab here is also a maze, isn't it now?
Yeah.
A little thing like
exactly.
that.
Yeah.
And I haven't even gotten to my Cary Grant impression.
You just got to read a whole page of Pynchon out loud to really understand how it was meant to be sound.
Is this the song that you understood the
yeah, I'm pretty sure it's On Top of Old Smoky.
Oh. See, I listened to Begin the Begin, the old jazz standard, and I was like trying to make it work, and it kind of did. But where did On Top of Old Smoky come from? Spring in Pavlovia. I was lost in a maze. Yeah, I can hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been searching for days. Yeah, I could see that. I read this and I thought it sounded like familiar, but I didn't get there. It's hard. It's weird to think a song sounds familiar when you don't have the tune.
Yeah.
But the rhythm sounded familiar.
It was a weird sensation to be like halfway through this and be like, I think I'm picking up what Pynchon's throwing down here.
Yeah, I think
that's
you're right,
good.
Andrew.
Good for you. And this begins a real the rats and mice sort of grow to be, I don't know, I kind of imagined like the Nutcracker ballet style prancing rats.
There's sort of like almost a can going on. Yeah. I felt like Thomas Pynchon's Theater Kid really came out here.
Oh, yeah.
We had like a full-on musical number.
And like a very like Hollywood style musical number of like the big sets, and like suddenly there's a band over here, and they're like you can almost imagine the camera, like, I mean, it says that there's like a German camera angle kind of from above, but you can imagine the camera on like a big like cherry picker sort of like zooming up as the mice are all spinning around in a circle with their hands up in a V.
Yeah, if anyone has seen the movie The Great Mouse Detective, it's one of my favorites, but it kind of reminded me of
super Great Mouse Detective coded.
Yeah, a number of scenes in that movie. Radigan.
Now see, we can't hum Disney songs. American folk songs, okay.
Disney songs, no.
Disney songs, no. That was only 2 words.
That was 2 words.
You weren't even singing anything.
We're fine.
Oh, Radigan.
Oh, Radigan.
We get they're sending out propaganda that is making the V2 look like a surrender symbol. You know, keep your hands up in a V.
That's V2 ein. I do want to point out einsetzen, the verb in this propaganda poster means to use or to deploy. So it's sort of a double entendre if you'd say deploy the V2, meaning to surrender, but also obviously probably what you would say before you launched a V2.
I like the phonetic translation. I surrender.
Yeah, just to call back to the point from earlier, I was kind of reminded of the champagne scene here, which also felt almost like a musical number. Like people are singing, champagne's pouring. They were making like a big stack of champagne that kept getting knocked over. It felt very like, maybe I'm just like thinking of The Great Mouse Detective and merging these 2 scenes together, because there was also a lot of like pouring bubbles in the rat musical number in The Great Mouse Detective.
I'll link to it in the show notes.
Please do.
It's possible that you, listener, have not seen a maybe generously C-list Disney animated film.
It's possible that I saw similarities between these 2 scenes because of a very specific fondness I have for this one movie. But I do feel like they both have sort of like a showmanship to them, and like a zooming out on the crowd situation that's going on, where we're looking at suddenly everyone in the bar is involved in this, and the waiters are serving, and the people are singing, and people are coming from around. And
God, we gotta watch Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
We do.
Maybe it's after the V2 Rockets documentaries.
But of course, song and dance, wine and song can't last forever, and so Webley Silvernail is like, you know, what is freedom? Are we free out here? If I freed you all from your cages, what would I be sending you to? Don't we just sort of like throw ourselves down on the ground to grease the wheels of our betters?
Because all the animals, the plants, the minerals, even other kinds of men are being broken and reassembled every day to preserve an elite few who are the loudest to theorize on freedom, but the least free of all. Yeesh, Webley. Bringing me down after that dance number.
We just had a rodent dance number, and this is where we've ended. Maybe we're all just rodents dancing.
I think one of the bleakest lines in this novel so far is, I can't even give you the hope that it will be different someday.
Yeesh.
Yeah. It's rough.
Vibes are bad at the White Visitation. I don't think it's a healthy workplace.
No.
I think that's maybe why Grigori the Octopus did not seem mentally sound to Sloth.
I don't think anyone at the White Visitation seems like they're in a great state of mental health.
Which brings us to our next subject, one Brigadier Ernest Pudding.
In the D-Wing.
In the D-Wing. Remember when we heard about the D-Wing and we were like, the D-Wing's over there? Now we know a little more about what goes on in the D-Wing. There is one of the sort of presumably involuntarily restrained patients is sort of echoing a bunch of Kabbalistic, esoteric mythology about Metatron, Keeper of the Secret, Guardian of the Throne, which, interestingly enough, sounds not dissimilar from what all of the quote-unquote scientists are yammering about all the time across the hall in the other parts of the White Visitation. Like, they literally have guys who are, like, communing with the dead, but these guys over here are crazy.
And then Pointsman has to walk past 6 of the rooms that each have an item in them that he views as a test.
Pudding.
Yeah, sorry. What did I say? Pointsman? Pudding is walking through the room, and he thinks Pointsman has set all of these up. Which he probably has. That does seem like something he would do. Not even... It just seems like something he would do because he likes things to be more complicated than they need to be. He's like, put some window dressings up.
It's a little bit like a haunted house setup where you have to move through one room after another. Yeah. And this one, there's like a mummy that pops out of a coffin.
Rooms with scenes. Yeah, it's like, what do we think that would unnerve Brigadier Pudding? Coffee tin. Put a single coffee tin on the table.
Except that most of these are extremely innocuous. Like the coffee tin is the brand name is...
There's a skull.
Severance. Yeah, but they're also in a hospital. Could be a teaching skull.
They're not in a hospital. They're in the hospital's down the street because it got bombed. Because they took... I guess that they got
D-Wing. Well, they got D-Wing.
Well, they were in a hospital, but they're not in that kind of hospital.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's 7 of these. Did anyone else feel like it felt sort of like the rings of hell or something?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Although, aren't there 9 rings of hell?
Well, there seems to be some debate about that.
we sent a couple guys and they keep coming back with different stories.
But yeah, canonically with Dante, there's 9 rings of hell.
But
there's 7 circles?
There's 7 sins. You're thinking of the 7 deadly sins?
Oh.
Could be. How many colors are in a rainbow? Roy, G,
there's 7, but Indigo's made up.
Yeah, Indigo is
Newton
fake.
Wanted there to be 7.
But the coffee tin is red, right? Yeah, an empty red tin, red.
Yeah.
Hypodermic outfit is not really colorful. Never mind.
We were onto something there.
I was like, I think that's going to break down quickly.
Okay, maybe what I was thinking is the phrase 7th circle of hell, not 7 circles of hell.
Is that for traitors?
It's for violence against others and punishment.
Yeah. Traitors is the 9th.
Traitors is 9th.
Because it's the very middle,
the worst
or the very bottom.
But the violence being the 7th cell feels maybe appropriate here.
Yeah.
Smart. Yeah, he's only going to the 7th room and not all the way down to the 9th room.
That's true, yeah. The one that really stands out is the room that just has a coat that has been hung up. But he looks at it and the preceding rooms have gotten him into a mental state whereby the coat that is hung up looks like a body of a soldier that has been shot through and hanged. This is where his Passchendaele World War I trench warfare PTSD really starts to show up. Whereas the Severan coffee is presumably like a Venus in furs reference to Severin, the character from what's the guy's name? Massock? Soccer Massock?
Yeah.
Of masochism fame.
Yeah.
You looking something up, Duri?
I was. Sorry. It's not important. I was just reading.
Still reading about hell?
No, I was reading about hell, and I was also reading about Venus and furs because I made the reference to a theater kid, but it was I read both in college. I feel like I read both the novella and also there's a play that was made.
I'm only recognized it because of the Velvet Underground song Venus in Furs that talks about Severin and is based on Venus in Furs.
It was like an adaptation. I think that was something we focused on in a class I took for some reason.
Interesting. So what's going on in the seventh cell? What do we got?
I'm gonna leave that to y'all.
It doesn't get so out there at the beginning. You walk in and there's a mostly the Domina Nocturna's there. You know, it reminded me a little bit of Gottfried and Blaquero's house, talking about like, you ever see the like pale woman who like waits for you at the and like assures you that death will come, and then Blaquero is like, yes, the pale woman of death.
Yes, the pale woman.
Yeah.
I did not put together until you guys were talking in the first half of this pod that this was Katya, but it makes sense now.
Took longer for me than it probably should have. There's some hints early on that make it very clear that it's Katya, but then there's a point, I guess, when they're talking. I feel like there's a thing in here about like Dutch women's voices, and I was like, oh yeah. Sure,
she has a Dutch accent. She has a black wig over blonde hair.
Yeah, the only woman who's been wearing costumes for 200 pages is wearing costumes again. That makes sense.
And Gottfried and Blaquero get mentioned, right? Explicitly at some point. Yeah, this is towards the very end when Pudding is finishing up, let's say, the narrator says she has watched Captain Blaquero with Gottfried and has learned the proper style.
Yeah.
Yeah, Duri?
I did read that. I think I had just thought that similar to like the octopus watching Katya, I was like, oh, they just like watched one of the recordings, but it makes more sense that it's actually Katya. I would have wished to stay on the French Riviera as well.
Yeah. This is a weird gig. It's arguably somehow maybe not the weirdest gig that Katya has ever had, given what was going on with Blaquero and Gottfried.
Yeah.
But
yeah, weirder than the last gig. Yeah.
Definitely weirder than the last gig.
Yeah.
Which is why you might be extremely angry at the person who ruined the setup.
Who gets you fired from the last gig.
Yeah. There's a lot of interesting stuff, again, about how Pudding, quote, comes out of a different time, and how nowadays, like, there's so much of the war and, like, tears and crying have left women with, like, no real need to put on mascara, and so it's lipstick is all the rage right now, but, I mean, you can look back at famous actresses and dancers from the sort of, like, 1910s and 20s and probably even 30s, and they all have like big dark eye makeup, and so Pointsman's like, well, we gotta get the eyes right, because that's really what's gonna do it for Ernest here. And then I just have to make a reference here. Parts of this, Duri, reminded me of another TV show that you and I have enjoyed in the past. Andrew, you may have even watched this episode of the TV show in college, of a blonde woman putting on a dark black wig in order to turn into a...
Riverdale?
Is this Riverdale? Yeah.
It's kind of a dark Betty vibe going on here.
I thought you were headed in like a Twin Peaks direction there for a minute.
No. I'm just thinking...
The pod record, I haven't seen this episode, but I have seen like an episode.
I think this is like the pilot episode of Riverdale. It continues. Andrew, you don't know this, spoilers for Riverdale, but Betty eventually finds out that she has the serial killer gene, and so Dark Betty becomes like a recurring manifestation of her masochistic or sadistic impulses. Dark Betty doesn't go away. But Ernest here is sort of like put through his paces of the no man's land, where he began to develop a fascination with this lady of the night, the Domina Nocturna, who emerges as kind of like a religious figure for the horrors of war and those who perpetrate them and sort of like throw themselves into the thick and the mud of war.
I wondered for a moment here if like she was sort of a representation of death.
Mm-hmm.
Like we've seen the Lord of Death show up.
We've seen the Lord of the Night.
Lord of the Night. Yeah.
And she's the Lady of the Night.
So, and then she keeps showing up on like battlefields, and then there's a reference to the like Spanish Civil War, and she talks about how like there were so many young ones that were sent to me ostensibly to die, and so I kind of was seeing her as like a symbol of death,
who is both sort of feared and worshipped.
Feared, worshipped, and also keeps showing up in some of these like sexual settings between Roger and Jessica, between Slothrop and what's her name in the candy house. I just said candy house. Reminded me of Hansel and Gretel. I hadn't made that connection when we read that original chapter, that like he goes over to the house and eats lots of candy.
Oh yeah.
Sidebar.
Andrew, you looked like you were about to say something a second ago.
I was just going to say how incredibly V-coded this whole section was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not so much the V the book, but like V the person. V the mysterious lady who shows up when death is happening and also is like dark and sexual.
Yeah. So they go through the motions for a little bit of like your classic belittling and kissing boots and whips and whatnot. Katja says she hasn't read any classic British pornography, but she does feel herself sure as a fish well in the local mainstream. Whack, where's that gourd surprise now? The surprise meals.
I did laugh at that.
That was very funny.
Pain, the clearest poetry, the endearment of greatest worth. And then she defecates and he eats it. And that's kind of that. There's a lot of description of that. You can go read it if you want.
Lot of description.
Or just skip it.
Is this the equivalent of Esther's nose job in V, where in every book there has to be like one really sort of like an endurance for your lunch for Thomas Pynchon?
I think this is worse than Esther's surgery.
This is definitely worse than Esther's surgery.
Yeah, I would agree.
Well,
do we have anything else to say about this?
He takes a required penicillin shot.
Smartly. And it seems that he's basically being drawn into the situation and blackmailed.
Yeah, because she makes him take a photo before he leaves.
Yeah, so then Pointsman is getting his full funding. He's got his funding situation sorted out well into 46. There's
just a couple more things I want to point out that I think are intriguing. One, we get sort of like an inversion of like the oven and bread imagery that we have associated with Katja thus far. Like the oven comes back up as a bitter intestinal oven, which I think is worth keeping in mind. And additionally, I sent this to our group chat, having not read this chapter yet. But Duri, did you see the thing? I know, Andrew, you responded to it of
what's his face?
Maine Democratic senatorial candidate Graham Plattner, who it was discovered like posted a bunch on like ex-military Reddit posts, and one of his posts was about his pathological desire to masturbate in porta potties because of the smell of the blue water.
No, I missed this moment in the group chat.
This news story dropped like this is the same guy who he's like the front runner. I mean, he is, I think, the only remaining Democratic candidate for that Senate seat but he was also the guy who had the Nazi tattoo.
Oh, that guy.
Uh-huh.
The guy who was like briefly, they were like, this is the face of the Democratic Party. And then it was like, no, just kidding.
Well, yeah, I mean, he is the face of the Democratic Party in Maine right now.
He's back in. People still like him.
Yeah. So turns out, you get a little Nazi coded. You like say some things about your military conditioning on the internet a time or two. I'm just saying Pynchon sometimes hits on things.
Yeah, this man sounds very Pynchon-esque.
I'm not making a political statement here. I have my own thoughts about Graham Plattner and other people who have Nazi tattoos. That's all I wanted to say. Just sometimes it's important to connect books to current events.
Well, I think particularly here, history is a sine wave.
Sorry, one last thing. This also clicks into place. At some point, someone posted a comment under one of our Spotify episodes that one of us said that Brigadier Pudding was the most relatable character in the book so far because of how confused he was. And someone wrote, really clicked into place for me reading this. Someone wrote a few weeks ago, calling Brigadier Pudding the most relatable character so far is going to haunt you.
Will haunt you. This is how you know that we are truly reading these books for the first time.
So I wanted to shout out that comment.
I really gotta, I don't know if that was me or not, but I really gotta be careful. I feel like every time in this book, I'm like, wow, what an interesting character name. Don't we love so-and-so? And then they inevitably, I
eat shit.
Yeah, I was just gonna say eat my words. And then I really didn't want to say that.
I could feel it in the room. I could feel that you have regrets. Okay, moving on. Sequence 2.5. In and out. Here we go. Glimpses of Von Braun in the Harz Mountains in the spring arriving at the defensive line surrounding the White Visitation. Up in the ether, the spirit of Roland Feldspath, an expert on control systems and cybernetics, who we last heard from at the Snoxall's seance. Remember that? Has taken to invading Slothrop's psyche with visions of valleys and streets leading unavoidably into dark, demon-haunted woods. Slothrop's now receiving tutoring from Hilary Bounce of Shell International Petroleum, lately contracted by the British government to produce liquid oxygen rocket fuel. Slothrop, now speaking in a pseudo-British accent, scratches at a paranoid itch centered on the international enterprise of petrochemical research before dressing up like a human peacock to attend a fireworks heir's standing bacchanal. Followed, of course. Werner von Braun did break his arm in an automobile accident sort of late in the war. True fact.
Wow. I tried, after reading this first paragraph, tried to see if he'd ever made a comment on Gravity's Rainbow. And he was alive. He died in 1977, and it was published in early 70, like 72, 73, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have had a chance to read it, but I couldn't find anything where he may have made a statement about it.
It's interesting that you say that, because I found something very much related, which is not Von Braun, but I was looking up some people's names to see if they were real guys, as they often...
The Sandy guy?
As they often appear in this book. No, but so Isaac Lubach of Shell, who was like in charge of some of the rocket tests, and then it was a real person. And then his chief assistant these days is Mr. Jeffrey Golan, and it is to Golan that Hilary Bounce reports. Jeffrey Golan was a real guy. When I was looking up his name, I found, oddly enough, his obituary. He died in 1992. And it begins, or the second paragraph says, Jeffrey Golan had the distinction, dubious in his own eyes, of appearing both in a book by David Irving, The Mare's Nest, and in the radical American novel Gravity's Rainbow by Thomas Pynchon. Both refer to the role he played in the development of a British liquid fuel rocket in parallel to the V2, 1940 to 1945.
Wow.
So, a dubious distinction from Jeffrey Golan. Rest in peace, I suppose. But at least one person has commented in a manner of speaking on being a person named in a Thomas Pynchon book.
It's probably something you don't want. You don't want
I don't think so.
to show up 30 years after the fact in a Thomas Pynchon novel. Lloyd George is dying.
Yep.
If we remember Lloyd George.
It was kind of another one of those newsreel moments.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Very
not
much
to the
so.
same extreme that
yeah.
we've seen other times.
It's a good point.
General Wyvern is now the only familiar face that Slothrop can see. And we get a couple of these proverbs for paranoids. The first one being, you may never get to touch the master, but you can tickle his creatures.
The Master.
The master.
Go back and listen to our Patreon episode.
Will we meet the master in this book, do you think?
I would assume not.
Because we never touch him.
Yeah, we
No
can't
one
touch
gets to
him.
meet the master.
I feel like it sort of breaks down the paranoia if you just like Wizard of Oz it, you know?
Mm.
Well, and do we even know, like, I feel like the Master might be different things to different people. Like, there's the Master, Slothrop talks about the Creator, there's some discussion of, like, a cloud beast.
A creature of the master, presumably.
A creature of the master. There's
Tickling
like
is always sinister in this book.
Very much so. Well, there's the Lord of Death. Is the Lord of Death? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think we know who the master is yet.
There's a lot in this section about capital C control, which seems to simultaneously be sort of this, I don't know if I'd call it the sinister version. I mean, it's like the Nazi version of them, sort of capital T, I feel like. But it also several times seems to just reference control algorithms, like the actual rocket's flight systems. I don't know totally how I feel about it yet, or how half-baked of an idea I just spoke out loud, but...
Yeah, well, they mention cybernetics here, and Weisenberger points out that this is sort of an anachronistic reference because Norbert Wiener like kind of coined the term cybernetics and was a systems theorist and engineer, did not sort of propose that term until well after World War II. So there's something interesting going on there, whether it's just an error or not. But then, I mean, if you look at the early history of cybernetics, it's all about these kind of like control systems and feedback loops and, determining what outputs result from what inputs and how those loops can be directed toward certain ends. I was trying to look back to find the first time we see, what's his name? Or we hear from what's his name. Yeah, Roland. Would you all like me to read our original encounter with Roland?
Yeah, that would probably be helpful.
So this is the sensitive flame back at Snoxall's, are also our introduction to Eventer and Jessica. This is Eventer talking. Once transected into the realm of Dominus Blicero, Roland found that all the signs had turned against him. Lights he had studied so well as one of you, position and movement, now gathered there at the opposite end, all in dance, irrelevant dance. None of Blicero's traditional progress, no, something new, alien. Roland, too, became conscious of the wind, as his mortality had never allowed him. Discovered it so joyful that the arrow must veer into it. The wind had been blowing all year long, year after year, but Roland had felt only the secular wind. He means only his personal wind. Yet, Selena, the wind's everywhere. And I believe Selena is Roland's wife, I think. Yeah, Roland Feldspath, the spirit, Peter Saxa, the control, Carol Eventer, the medium, Selena, the wife, and Survivor are the people who are at the seance.
Gotcha.
But now Roland is hovering over Slothrop.
We skipped over a short phrase here that I wanted to highlight.
What was that?
Says so Slothrop says he's lately beginning to find his way into one particular state of consciousness, not a dream certainly, perhaps what used to be called a reverie, which I smiled at because I think I have used that term probably 95 times over the course of this podcast to describe various
headspaces that Thomas Pynchon puts characters in.
Yes. I think Rachel had a lot of reveries. I think Oedipa had a lot of reveries.
So many
reveries. And I was happy to see Pynchon himself use the word reverie.
You were validated.
I felt seen.
Yeah, the Roland is in a, as he calls it, like a bureaucratized stratosphere over the last parabolas. Weisenberger notes that the last V2s were dropped in, or launched, I guess, in March of 1945, which takes us to about where we are here.
Then what the heck else is the rest of this book going to be about?
It's going to be about, we just talked about it.
Zone.
Yeah, into the zone and
counterforce.
the counterforce. Yeah, but we are at the end of the V2 program here.
Wow.
I mean, we're nearing the end of the war, of course, as well.
Maybe this book is indeed going to be about sort of the military-industrial complex and what happens with this technology and all that the White Visitation has done when the actual war comes to a conclusion.
The last V2, this is Weisberger, of the London Blitz was launched from Holland on March 28th, 1945. It struck the village of Orpington in Kent at 7:45 p.m. on Ash Wednesday. Apparently, a few final rockets were launched against advancing American positions in Europe, but apparently none were used after April 1st, which was Easter. So Christmas to Easter is our last little...
Yeah.
Where this book takes place a little bit. Do you all have any thoughts on this sort of like these paranoid systems of history and the control? Andrew, I liked what you said about control being sort of like the German version of them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm totally convinced of it, but it does seem that very abruptly we went from seeing lots of comments about they and them, and now it is control who is doing everything. And then when they talk, or when Hilary Bounce and Slothrop are talking about the takeover of the Shell headquarters building, I guess, he sort of says that it's a coincidence to actually like do like control work, like actually like flying the V2s from there. I'm not sure if he uses the word control though, but
yeah,
sort of the same idea. So I find that section.
I'm kind of interested to see where this book goes with this idea of like inertia and lack of free will. I mean, it feels a little bit like I'm connecting back to V. It feels a little bit like Benny Profane, sort of like bouncing around,
being a schlemiel.
But I feel like we also, see that that's kind of a choice a little bit in V. Like Benny chooses to remain in this role of schlemiel, and
he feels locked into a path.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure where I'm headed with this, but I think what I'm wondering is Pynchon at times seems to be kind of critiquing this idea that, you know, people turn to conspiracy to explain the sort of complex messiness of the world in a neat and systematic way. And I think we see in V with Stencil how that kind of comes apart at the seams, and it turns out that you can try to fit the world into this conspiracy so that you can make sense of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's accurate. And I'm kind of curious to see where this book goes with this idea of like they and control, and there are these sort of like powers that are controlling everything. And I'm curious if that's the reality of the situation, or if that's just the way the characters are seeing it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that is representative in the way that Roland is talking about how shoddily he says the Germans use their, the word he uses is Schwärmerei, which is enthusiasm, rapture, fanaticism, or ecstasy for control. That like you try to capture control and use it to your own political ends, but then, it can potentially backfire. He says diverging oscillations of any kind were nearly the worst threat. Talks about playgrounds. I'm interested in this, the like spatialization of this, where he's talking about all these like big world historical concepts, and then starts talking about valleys, and then the valleys move into streets that are badly paved, and then out into the countryside, and then the fields and the woods, and then soon enough we are brought into the like spooky fairy tale woods that have demons running in them, including Maxwell's demon.
Hey, Lot 49.
Maxwell's demon.
Speaking of control and free will,
if you want to hear more on Maxwell's demon, go to episode. Patrick, you can insert an episode number here.
And I'm definitely
it's episode
will.
2. Episode 2, probably, of. We only made 3 episodes about that book.
I think it's episode 2. Yeah, go listen to all of them. Short book. You'll enjoy it if you like this. And I think we do a great job explaining the concept of entropy in both physical and informatic senses.
Yeah, we knocked it out of the park.
Speaking of which, what's this equation?
I've got this equation. I found the paper that this comes from. And the problem is I can only find one page of the paper that this comes from, and couldn't find more of it. But it's very funny because he seems Thomas Pynchon. This is the second time they've talked about yawing of the rocket in the first 250 pages, and they've never talked about roll or pitch. And I thought it was interesting. I noted it the first time that it came up that he only mentions yaw, and I don't remember where this was now. It was not in this episode. This episode's reading. But here again, they only talk about yaw control. And so I was sort of looking around for this paper, and I found it. And it seems like whoever wrote it, Otto Mueller, the control system of the V2. Patrick, I'll put
I'll see if I can
an archive.org thing that has part of it, but it doesn't have the like equations really, because it's just like a .text file, it seems to be. Anyway, I found a screenshot of the paper, and it has this equation, but Otto Mueller has done the thing where like math textbooks do, where they're like, the other derivations are trivial, so just do that on your own if you feel like it. And it does not seem that Thomas Pynchon has chosen to do his own derivations and has just copied the one that is given. He says, Otto Mueller, therefore the stability problem is nearly identical for yaw, pitch, and roll. Therefore, we shall consider in detail how the equation for controlling yaw was obtained, because in this case, the additional problem of lateral control by guide plane had to be dealt with. And that's all he gives. So I think it's very funny that I guess Otto Mueller only does yaw, and so Pynchon now has mentioned twice yaw control and nothing else. Even though he worked for aerospace companies, he could probably figure the math out.
Yeah. Well, he did switch to being an English major at some point at Cornell.
Yeah.
So maybe he didn't get to advanced pitch and roll. Which are, if folks are listening and don't know about, I guess, flying objects.
I just Googled a diagram.
They're different ways to orient things in space. Yeah.
Yeah. If you've got sort of if you're sort of moving through space, pitch is going to be around your probably like a y-axis. Pitch is what you'd expect. You go up, you pitch the nose up, you go down, you pitch the nose down. Roll is straightforward. If you think about a plane, you roll when you turn to the left or the right. Yaw is, if you can imagine, spinning around the sort of flat plane that an airplane would be in.
Like a ballerina or a spinning top.
Yeah, that would be yawing. An airplane does not yaw typically. You don't want to.
If your airplane's yawing, you're in a bad way.
It's probably not good.
Doesn't like are you yawing when you're like driving a car and you turn?
Because
you're sort of on the flat plane.
I guess if your turn radius was 0, yes. If you were like
just if you're like
spinning.
drifting, you're definitely yawing. I would call it drift a yaw. I think it sort of breaks down with a car because like the wheels are turning and your car body is sort of moving around it.
The wheels are off the axis.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Sometimes when I'm sleepy, I yaw.
Yeah, exactly. I yawed reading this section of the book.
Okay, Hillary Bounce. We've already kind of talked about.
A yaw is what a rushed cowboy says.
Cortex. Shell shows up. Slothrop is like, I'm more of an Esso man myself, which I thought was really funny. I didn't realize Shell was doing all this shit with rockets back in the day. I'm going to think about that next time I pull over at a Shell station.
Because so often we pull over to Shell stations and think about the ethical and moral positive impact we're having on the world.
Yeah,
That was sarcastic.
No, that's why you go to a BP.
Or buy an electric car.
Yeah. But not from any of the problematic electric car manufacturers. Try to avoid the Nazi electric car makers,
Ride a bike.
too.
Yeah, try to...
Take a stroll.
Trying to find a farm-to-table EV.
Find some good public transport if you live somewhere that's not the United States.
Do you have anything to say about Hillary? Hillary Bounce? It's a good name. I like that name.
It sounded familiar. We haven't met Hillary Bounce before, have we?
I don't think so.
Maybe I'm thinking of Dr. Hilarious.
Hilarious, yeah. Hillary Clinton, another famous Hillary. Probably connected to some oil companies.
We're getting political today on the pod.
Slothrop is now sounding like Cary Grant.
Ah, yes.
Go ahead.
Do you have your impression ready, Patrick?
Old Jerry, has been in that Hague there, shooting his bloody rockets at that London and using the Royal Dutch Shell headquarters building.
I feel like you turned into David from Schitt's Creek like halfway through that impression.
Was I doing Catherine O'Hara?
Oh, yeah. Not David. I was the David. David.
Maybe she's just doing a Cary Grant.
Whoa. Hadn't even considered that.
Radio guidance transmitter.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah, just the slow Britishification of Slothrop. Have y'all noticed that, like, occasionally the narrator will talk to Jackson?
Yeah, they did it a lot in the reading for the last episode. There was 2 times where they sort of did the interjection of Jackson.
Yeah, I noted it on page 197 when Slothrop is digging through Koch's closet, and he says, the operational scent in here is Carbon Tet Jackson, and this wardrobe's mostly props. And here he says, neither have I, Jackson. Oh, me neither, folks.
Is that like a phrase, or do you think he's actually like referring to someone named Jackson?
I have no clue.
I think this. I feel like this is a thing. I was really trying to put something onto it, and I feel like it's being used as like an exclamation. Like, I think this is something I've heard before, maybe using Jackson as an exclamation, but I don't think it's common.
Yeah, Jackson does not appear in Weisenberger, so if you say Jackson as an exclamation, let us know. Write in.
We get another proverb for paranoids.
What is it?
I feel like we might get more of these throughout the book. Proverbs for paranoids 2. The innocence of the creatures is in inverse proportion to the immorality of the master.
I was thinking about this proverb when we were talking about Stephen Dodson Truck and Katya's sort of role in everything. That sort of how we judge them is based on, I guess, the power that they have. You know?
Yeah, like who is the victim here?
Yeah, like the higher up the conspiracy goes, like the more powerful the conspiracy, the less you can blame these sort of toadies who just do the bidding. But if it's a very small conspiracy, then the amount of blame, sort of slice of the pie of blame that goes around is bigger.
Although it's interesting that it's in inverse proportion to the immorality of the master, which means it is in proportion to the morality of the master, right? That like as the master is more moral, the creatures are more moral. Like isn't that what inverse proportion to immorality means?
No, the innocence of the creatures in inverse proportion. So the higher the immorality,
the higher the innocence.
No,
the less the innocence. Oh wait,
the higher the immorality, the less the innocence.
Yeah, so
which is the higher the morality.
So everyone is worse. So what I said was totally
I also interpreted it the way you did it until
switch it around. All the greater thans are less thans. All the less thans are greater thans.
Because I'm not misunderstanding that, right? Yeah.
So everyone is bad.
If you have an immoral master, then you have a low innocent creature.
So everyone is bad.
Yeah. It's like a weird framing, because you would think it would be morality and not immorality, which is a negative, but it's a double negative.
Yeah. God, I'm glad we have this podcast to work through these thoughts.
I'll graph it out.
I'm not sure what to make of that.
I'm not either.
I liked the first interpretation better.
Yeah, it's a weird interpretation. Why would you write it like this, Thomas? I don't know.
I was thinking about the rats in this section. I'm not sure what to say about them now that I'm all mixed up with the inverse proportions, but I was thinking
rats
about who
the last section.
Yeah, I was thinking about who the creatures are. Like the rats have a master, like they're creatures that are being sort of studied who's their master, but then there's like Slothrop has a master. Well, but like different levels of master. There's like Katya and Dodson Truck, but then above them is Pointsman. And like who is the creature and who is the master? Now I feel like I'm talking about the movie, but who is the creature and who is the master depends on the perspective that you're taking and like might shift and change over time.
Well, Pointsman is an interesting example, because if we take Pointsman as an immoral master of the rats, then inversely, the innocence of those creatures is also very low. The rats aren't innocent either, because their master is immoral.
Maybe it means like you're complicit in some way to your immoral master if you've...
I think that's why it's paranoid, is because you can't separate yourself from the morality of the system or the power that you serve.
Yeah, I guess like if you're, if Roger Mexico is working ostensibly with Pointsman...
Roger Mexico is a great example, because he's like, I hate the British Empire. Like, it would honestly be better if I switched sides and go fought with the Germans. Like, I can't stand anything going on. Like, it's the thing Jessica finds frustrating about him.
Yeah, but he's complicit with, even if he's just, one man working in a bureaucratic position in this job, you're still complicit with the immorality of your master.
Mm-hmm. Or at the very least, you're not innocent. Also makes me think of the Dodos.
Who was their master?
But they convert to Christ. Or the colonial project, I guess. I don't know. At this point, Slothrop sees one of these creatures, the clouds, the like angel cloud rocket stuff, rears up again. And then he tries to dig through a paper trail because he's like, why would this one part have the number for the whole rocket project? And I need to find document SG1.
Jumping back for a sec to the cloud, this cloud kind of reminded me of that parable about the elephant where you like, is it like a blind man touches an elephant and like each part of it feels like a different creature?
Oh, yeah.
But then like together it turns out it's all an elephant. And I feel like this cloud, like it's Slothrop is like sort of trying, like getting a picture of a creature, but it keeps kind of slipping and moving away, and he can't kind of see the whole thing at one time. And that feels to me kind of like what they're doing is trying to like make sense of they or the control. Like they can't really get a full, Slothrop can't really get a full picture of what's happening all in one place. He keeps grasping onto a little bit of it, but then it slips away or rearranges.
Which is his Puritan impulse again.
So Slothrop has a second scheme. Because the first scheme worked really well for him. He's doing a second scheme. And he's decided that he needs to get access to Hilary Bounce's teletype so that he can ask for specifics about Imipolex G.
He seems to be onto something. I am maybe not smart enough to figure out exactly what he's onto, but he seems to be putting something together with relation to the V2 rockets and the documents he's been looking at.
Yeah, specifically, he found a document, SG1, that's Geheime Kommando Sache, which I think we previously learned means top secret in German.
Yeah, it was on Koch's note to Prentice.
Oh, yes. And he asks the general about it, and the general is very dismissive. It's like, no, that's not correct. And so Slothrop pretends that what he thought was an SG was actually a 56. And then he hatches the plan to go find out more about this one substance that is not listed on any of the materials, any of the bills of sale. There's only this one reference to this Imipolex G.
And I think speaking of bureaucracy, I feel like Slothrop does a really good job of cutting through the bureaucracy and figuring out how to get the information he needs rather than just taking the answer no and moving on. He figures out how to make the system work for him, and he's like, actually, I think I have unlimited access to the materials I need. I think this guy's getting in my way. I'm going to go over his head and use this teletype machine to get in touch.
Isn't he doing exactly what Pointsman is doing, though? He's getting his friend Michelle to go be a honeypot so that he can get access to Hilary's bedroom and use the computer.
Yeah.
You know, the creatures are complicit to their immoral masters.
I do think such a funny bit where he's like, Slothrop's like, you'll love this guy. He's like a big oil man. And Michelle is like, he's like a weird drip, like man made of oil. And
Dripping crude oil?
I have to screw him through a system of pipes? Okay, I guess.
They work it out, though. They figure out their miscommunication.
Captain Bounce has got an IG Farben award. Sounds suspicious.
Not good. You don't want to be in 1945 and have won a pre-war IG Farben award.
You least of all want to be wearing it around. The notion here, who'd know better than an outfit like Shell with no real country, no side in any war, no specific face or heritage, tapping instead out of that global stratum most deeply laid from which all the appearances of corporate ownership really spring, brings to mind the Walter Rathenau speech in a big way. The like no right, no left, just sort of corporatized control. And then it seems Slothrop is on his way to a party that sounds somewhat similar to the siege party that that one young Kurt Mondaugen found his way into back in V. Just a constant Gatsby-esque sounding party that has been going on for God knows how long.
Yeah, if party is the word for something that's been going on nonstop ever since this piece of France was liberated. And he puts on quite a fit to go to this party. I
read this and I was like, and then I was like, wait, what did I just read? And then I tried picturing every item in sequence. It was like, my immediate thought was the scene in Dumb and Dumber where they show up with the sort of like highlighter colored tuxedos.
I had one thought when I read this, and I wrote it in the margins. I wrote Slothrop's back, baby.
He's been schlepping around in an ill-fitting British tan uniform for weeks.
His gaudy American vibe is back.
He finally found a haberdashery that has colors that he needs.
Green suit, boom. Subtle purple check, okay. Brown and white wingtip shoes with golf cleats, those are important. White socks, midnight blue snap brim fedora.
He's his
Flower
true self
tie.
again. He's found his individuality. The Hawaiian shirt, it's back.
He's reconstructed the Hawaiian shirt from first principles.
Yes.
He's being followed by a Secret Service man who's dressed like an Apache, which was reminiscent to me of the fake turn in Texas. I don't remember if they were Apaches. They were certainly Native American, costumed in the signpost by the lake.
Yeah.
In the Crying of Lot 49.
Weisenberger has a useful note here, which is that, like, I think you're absolutely right that sort of like the disguise as Native American feels like very intentional, and it's something Pynchon has played with before, and also shows up in the Kenosha Kid Crutchfield business.
Yeah, I guess it's good to point out that Slothrop is constantly thinking about the American West, and as himself is a cowboy. Including in the reading we did today.
There is a term that Weisenberger notes that Apache, which was coined either by Arthur Dupont or Victor Morris, both French journalists, in 1902 to describe teenaged members of Paris street gangs specializing in petty theft, prostitution, and protection scams. In later decades, the term was applied to a whole range of garishly clad youth gang members throughout France, comparable to 40s era zoot suitors. Which is
fascinating.
Yeah, seemingly, I guess Slothrop might also be dressed sort of like one of these garishly besuited Parisian street youths.
Interesting.
But I think both readings are here.
This is kind of the second Village People reference we've gotten from the reading. The first being when they do the Y in the surrender, and then the second being a man dressed like an Apache.
Yeah. When did the Village People's first singles come out?
It's a great question. It's probably around this time.
Yeah.
Ooh, active from 1977. We just missed them.
Ugh. Maybe they were inspired by this book. They were like, putting your hands up like a Y seems pretty fun. I think you got something there.
Can't wait till we find oh my God, their hit song Mucho Mas Man.
The record, the producer made them change it. They're like, can we get it a little tighter? I learned that Devo's Whippet was apparently inspired by Pynchon. Unrelated to anything. I was looking up something, I saw something about Devo's Whippet, and apparently they tried to write a song in the style of Thomas Pynchon's songs.
Wild.
Wow.
So,
I'm
think
going to
about
have to
that.
go back and listen to Whip It.
Yeah, take that one to the bank. Maybe they'll play it at the party that we'll encounter next time, probably, that Slothrop is headed to. Do you have any lingering final thoughts about this section?
Our perm at the casino Herman Goring is going to be over soon.
Yeah.
And then we have to get back to the real book.
We have to get into the zone.
I'm kind of scared.
I don't want to go into the zone.
I don't know where we're headed next.
If this was my perm, I don't want to know what's on the other side of it.
You scared me, Patrick, when you told me that the V2 rockets were no longer falling. I don't even know what sort of abyss we're going to fall into.
Yeah.
The whole premise, as I had known it so far, is coming to a conclusion.
Look, I'm surprised based on the light spoilers I had that the Corprophagia was so early in the book. I figured we were probably building up to that, but
maybe we get to depart from that theme.
I don't know.
I'm
that's
knocking on
true.
wood.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right.
Yeah, I think I've said my piece on this section. I don't have much more to say.
Close us out, Patrick.
Thank you, listener, for listening to Pynchon Pals. That's us. And thank you to Duri Long.
Thank you very much.
And Andrew Tillett.
Okay, everybody.
For joining me. If you like what we're doing here, we'd love it if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts or in your podcatcher of choice. Our next episode will see us reading episodes 2.6 through 2.8. That is the end of section 2 or chapter 2, whatever you want to call it. If you go into the zone, you've gone too far. Stay out of the zone until the episode after next. If you'd like to get in touch with the show or submit a question to be answered on air, you can reach us at pynchonpals@gmail.com. To support the work we do here, you can head to patreon.com/pynchonpals and probably get in there right after or just before we release the V2, just after we release the V2 documentary episode. So go out there and listen to that. Our theme music is Horology by the inimitable King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, released under a Creative Commons Attribution No Derivatives license on the album Polygon Dwanaland. Pynchon Pals is produced and edited by me, Patrick Fiorilli. You can find more of my work alongside my newsletter, Critical Theory Craft, at my website, www.patf.io. Until next time.
See you later.
V2 later. Is that it? Is it?
Yeah.
V2 later.
I had your whole outro to think of something, and that's all I came up with.
Do you want to just hit him with a see you later, alligator?
See you later, alligators.
Hi, Andrew. I didn't realize you were back.
Hello.
I was just reading the old Weisenberger.
Wow. I can't wait to find out what you learned.
Nothing super exciting. You want to know what Hilbert space is?
I looked it up. It's something to do with getting Euclidean into many dimensions. I looked it up during the podcast, but I was like, I'm not going to explain that. I'm just going to be reading the first two sentences of Wikipedia, and that's not helpful.
How many times on this podcast do we read the first two sentences of Wikipedia and call it a day?
With math stuff, it feels particularly dumb, though. When it's history, you're like, well, I guess that is basically the summary.
Yeah, what's the... I've read someone talk about how, like, the explanations of, like, math and science concepts are, like, broadly pretty good, but you look up anything that's, like... History is okay, but, like, philosophy, literature, books, any kind of, like, thought concept, and it's just, like, wildly off base.
Wikipedia?
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah.
Because it's not really a great idea to, like, crowdsource, like, an interpretation of Nietzsche or whatever.
Right.
Whereas you can be like, this is the proof.
I think that probably the pinnacle example of this is if you look up Dark Side of the Moon. I remember reading this a long time ago, and it's pissed me off so much that I still think about it. The Dark Side of the Moon Wikipedia page, at least back in the day, is like, there's a section of it, I'm trying to find it, where it's like, the themes of Dark Side of the Moon are time and money and mental illness. And I'm like, you're just listing this title tracks, but you've added like citations to it, and I feel like that is, I think, probably the same issue, is that you're not like thinking, no one's thinking critically because it's more, kind of difficult to cite critical thinking.
Themes of Thomas Pynchon's Gravity's Rainbow include going beyond the zero, having un perm,
and we wonder why AI talks in the way that it does.
Yeah. Should we return?